I'm Kelsey.
I'm Cassie.
And I'm Nolan from SCP Weekly. We bring you news from on-site and off-site.
And we share your love for the creative community that surrounds the SCP Wiki.
Join us on Tuesdays for new episodes, wherever you listen to podcasts, or on YouTube at SCP Weekly.
Hey there, SCP fans. My name is Grigori Karpin, and this is Simply Creative People, the show about SCP creatives, be they authors, artists, or off-site content creators like YouTube and TikTok. We're focused on bridging the gap between various fans and serving as an introduction to different concepts and stories on the wiki. So, many welcomes to all, and let's get started. All right. Welcome back to Simply Creative People. So, my name is Grigori Karpin, and joined as always, my lovely co-host.
I didn't think of a name joke this time, Harry Blank. Oh, wait, wait. What last time? It was like, am I Harry Blank? Because it was question time, so maybe it's, am I Harry Blank?
You are Harry Blank.
But am I?
Also, I am Harry Blank.
Yes, and I also am Harry Blank. You thought I was going to say Grigori Karpin, but I'm also Grigori Karpin.
That's the same. It's always the same. Everybody knows this.
Yeah. I'm only hearing one name each time. It's kind of repetitive. This is almost like dead air. We need to get going.
Yeah, so happy holidays, everybody. We were planning on doing, and we still will do, an episode on the art exchange, which is, if you don't know, on the SCP Wiki, we do a sort of Secret Santa sort of thing, where everybody kind of signs up. Well, people sign up.
Everybody but Grigori.
That's right, I didn't this time. Sign up to volunteer their services to do something wiki appropriate. For example,
wow, did you ever make that take too long? It was starting to get really scary. They sign up to provide their services.
Services, wink, wink. So you basically say, here's what I'm good at. I can write this sort of article, or I can do this sort of art, and I would be more than willing to donate, fill in the blank. And then you provide what you would like in return, what sort of gift you would like. And then whoever's organizing it kind of assigns people secretly. And we get some interesting, really, really cool, and oftentimes not a lot of attention on interesting articles. Yeah. So we thought we would do something spotlighting that. But even though Christmas has come and gone, it's the 27th today, most of those have not been posted yet. So we are waiting to see what happens in the next week, I would hope.
Yeah, tomorrow they announce who did what, so...
okay.
There's usually links and such. The organizers do a good job.
Yeah, so if you want us to take a look at your art exchange, if you happen to be a contributor, feel free to send us an email. And if not, send us an email about art exchange or Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever.
Yeah, if you don't want us to take a look at it, just let us know, and that'll put it right in the top of our list of things to look at.
That's right. But in the meantime, something we left a little bit unfinished was when a few weeks back we asked, a month and a half ago, asked for questions for us to answer in a question and answer session. We got so many, and we spent so long because we loved the sound of our own voice, that after 3 hours, that's right, just one voice. After 3 hours, we hadn't finished. So we put out the call for some more questions to fill out the list a little bit more. And we are going with the original list. And we're going to give us a quick end of year special for more questions and maybe some answers, but I don't know.
The perils of micro celebrity on the internet. We got just like 6 hours worth of questions.
There are dozens of us. So we're going to start off. We're just going to dig right in. This might be a little bit shorter than last time, but we'll see. Yeah. So the question we left off on was Rat King, also known as Pasta Rasa on the wiki, and creator of many very cool things.
Very cool.
That's right. And Rat King asked 2 questions, so I'm going to read the first, and then you give the answer, and we'll do that same way we did last time.
Cool. I believe you. I have no memory of this.
Rat King asks, what's an article you find deeply underrated in the sense that it simply did not get the attention you felt it deserved?
I like that I have to go first on this one.
That's right.
This is so lopsided. I feel like all of Grigori's articles just never got exactly as much as I think they deserved. So hopefully when it's your turn, you're just going to say every article in order, and that'll be the rest of the episode, right?
That's right.
You're just going to list all of them.
Just read off the actual URLs for 90 articles, 90 pages of the wiki.
Right, and the conprox in the description. The one that I would pick out of mine, which is just kind of a crude and crass thing to do for me, is the 5694, which is called The War Pigs or Pygmalion, and it's a what's the word? Imposter challenge. There's a lot of self-imposed challenges you can do on the SCP wiki that people have written up as like pseudo-personal self-contest things that you can do if you're bored. And the imposter challenge one is to try, without getting crit from the person, to write an article that could be mistaken for having been written by a fellow author. And so I wrote 5694 in the style of Plague PJP, and it's a story about strange, seemingly alien individuals who walk into various stores and locations and attempt to purchase the most violence-enabling things that they can find in the most awkward, bizarre ways possible. And it was just an excuse to write weird, off English, vaguely ominous and scary but funny dialogue, like I would like to purchase death and stuff like that. And I was very fond. I'm very fond of it, and it's at plus 87, and I wrote it like 2 years ago, so I think that's underrated. I feel like that one could have done better, but it's probably because all my other articles are connected to each other and they get read in order, and the ones that are orphaned from my reading series are like half at best. That's just how that goes.
Wow, I have found completely the opposite to be true.
Yeah, that's weird. Your VKTM ones always just do way up there, and the ones that are in order in the series, it might change now that you've got it finished, hopefully.
Yeah, let's hope. I have seen some improvement on that, and I've gotten a few messages from people that just sat down and cranked out the whole thing, which is amazing. Thank you for anybody that's done that. It really means, it really, really means a lot. The things I have done on the wiki that I've done well, obviously I'm fond of, but the story Hecaconqueries is definitely, something pretty special to me because it's basically a novel on the wiki.
It is. So. Probably a pretty sizable novel at this point.
Yeah, it's like 85,000 words.
Nice.
But each episode or, chapter is pretty manageable. None of them go over 5,000 words, so.
Yeah, unlike certain other people in the room, Grigori is able to restrain himself.
Yeah. Well, I do long-form fiction, I think, pretty well, but it's not something I can just shoot out, whereas this was done very much like, okay, what needs to happen next? So it was interesting to take 4 years to slowly write a novel.
Scene by scene, as it were.
Yeah. Okay, for my answer, I've got one that's not mine that I just want to throw out there, and that's
look at this fucking generous guy making me look terrible now.
Well, I also got one for myself as well. But SCP-5456, which is Sweat Mother by Famine Pulse.
Oh, of course. Gotta love Sweat Mother.
This article only is like plus 50. I don't even think it's really 60. And it is absolute nightmare fuel.
Oh god, it's 58. That's so low still.
Yeah. It's everything that I love about Famine Pulse, and it just kind of like went and, no one seemed to notice it. And it's just wrong. It's very short. Please go read SCP-5456. It is pure nightmare, surreal imagery by the master of it on the SCP Wiki, in my opinion.
It's beautiful.
For my article, I would say, given the amount of effort I put into it, I would say 6602, which is A Season of Waste. This is an article, it's an SCP, obviously, so it's an anomaly that is not presented as such, but it is essentially a ghost story in a non-traditional way. It's about a mausoleum, and the things that happened in that mausoleum. I'm going to talk about it later on, so I'm not going to go too in depth, but one of the other questions kind of brought up as well. But I spent an inordinate amount of time on the imagery compared to the writing of it. And the writing of it, I tried something that I'd never done before, which was there's no dialogue. Everything had to be communicated through just descriptions of what the agents see or do. And I think it actually turned out really well. But it's like just over 100, but I really feel like, I mean, it's obviously not a failure, but I just
we don't
feel like
fail in this house.
Until that to some of my other articles. Also, yeah, just maybe go read my series, please. Okay.
Upvote Grigori Karpin.
Do you want to read the second one from Rat King?
I suppose. Ahem. And perhaps this question is a bit self-serving. We love those. But what is an article of yours you'd be the most interested in seeing me draw? Well, Grigori, what would you like to see a terrifying, sketchy, circle-faced face picture man of?
SCP-6677, which is Finn's Hollow, which has it's a puppet show produced by Vikander Need. And I found just so many images of creepy puppets, and I would do almost anything to see Rat King draw some of these creepy puppets. That would make me inordinately happy.
Oh, that one's got to be on a Rat King kind of vibe for sure.
Yeah.
It appears that the answer I wrote down is a shitpost answer. I wrote down SCP-6762, which is Dave Wants You, which is about a cardboard box going around telling people what to do. Which I wrote for a Fray Interactive for 5K, but I'm very fond of it. It's a cardboard box with a smiley face on the side. I know Rat King likes cardboard boxes with smiley faces on them, so...
Yeah, he would do a good job of that.
Yeah.
All right. You want to read this next one? Oh, no. Wait, I'm reading this next one. Quaker Button Nose, which is a fun username, says, what is something another person made based on one of your articles that you really like or enjoy? It could be fan art, a piece of writing, a YouTube video, etc.
I have my answer here. This is my turn, right? I'm supposed to go?
Yeah.
My turn? You asked the question, so I answered. Yeah. So I had a video that's not gotten nearly the attention it deserves. That was just absolutely phenomenally well put together. It was a reading of what at the time was my biggest article, which was 5866, the Name Snake, the Tiamat article, which was my first stratospheric one. And it's by Nomadic Archives, and they did a reading of it where they got voice actors and actresses to actually do a really phenomenal job of reading it, and the characters just pops right out. The job that everyone involved did on this is super high quality, and a lot of the times the really high quality production videos of readings and stuff don't do as well as the shit ass clickbait garbage that content farms churn out. So Nomadic Archives just absolutely blew me away when I listened to this. I was so pleased. It was just so good.
It was awesome.
So that's the one I would pick for now.
Oh, are we only picking one?
Oh no, you go. You go, boy. I love everything everybody makes. I love all the videos we've gotten. I love all the fan art. People have done so much fan art. Love Marginal has done about 800 pictures of Dr. Lillehammer and lost her mind. The number of people who've poured out all this stuff is it's endlessly gratifying to me, but I wouldn't be able to pick just one thing, so I'm just picking this video and letting it all stand in for it.
Fair. I'm gonna list a whole bunch of shit, because once I started listing one, I was like, oh, but what about this, and what about this? So SCP The Offshoot, which is a currently in production and kind of they've released a few things, animation, where they kind of do it's a slice of life comedy, sort of read The Office, of a sub-site of Site 19. I think it's 19S or something. And they did a recent promo for it where Victim trolls the site, and it's you just see this promo roll, and then you see some of the doctors and the director react to how the hell they even got it and where these videos were sent. And I've never been so happy in my life. I've watched, it's like, I think it's like 2 minutes. I've watched it like 20 times. Like, it's just, I mean, Gesma, who's one of the writers on the show, told me it was happening, and I believed it, but I didn't believe quite, in reality, like what they were going to do. I thought it was going to be a mention of Victim. I didn't think you're going to actually do something like I would have written an article about. And it just, I hate to sound, I don't want to sound ungrateful because it's amazing, but it just immediately made me think, like, why are we not doing this all the time? Like, please, let's work together, people. Do you want to make videos out of the Victim stuff? Because I think that's what it's meant for.
Yeah, you think maybe Victim has some sort of media element to it, right? So, just a little bit.
I mean, they're almost scripts. The logs are almost scripts.
Pretty
they got
much.
Stage
they
direction
pretty much
and
are.
shit. Anyway, yeah, I love that. Go check it out. It's SCP Peeps, I think, is the video channel. And it was the last thing they uploaded. It's really cool. I have gotten fan art from Niram for my director Varga, which is from Heka Trees. And she just sent it to me. Just was like, oh, I was just trying to do some portraits, so I did your character. And it's incredible. It's just this wonderful piece of art.
Niram is offensively talented. It's just unfair.
Oh my god, I know. I would do anything to have more Niram art.
They put so much effort and work into everything they do. It's phenomenal. It really shows up.
They haven't been doing as much SCP stuff lately, but anything they post, I'm just involved. Like, if you go to my YouTube channel, I have a saved playlist, which is Niram's music, Sarkic music, which is incredible. It's just, what if, Hayao Miyazaki made an anime about the Sarkics? This is the soundtrack to it. It's incredible. Also, Aethris did this incredible thing for SCP-5923, which was a pixel art thing about my sad Turkish town. And I've got it at the top of my author page because I want to see it every time I look at my author page. SCP Archives did a fully voiced podcast of the same SCP. It's amazing. It's super well done. Like a cast of 15 or something. It's nuts. SCP Unredacted did a fully voiced adaptation of 3809 and then asked me to do a part in it as well, and that's fucking amazing. Exploring Series did a 7-part, 8-hour long video explaining our joint article of 6500, which is fucking incredible.
Yep.
Love Marginal did the coolest image I've ever gotten, probably. Sorry to everybody I just shouted out because they did Mari McPherson. And just so perfect, it's not even funny. And honestly, I feel like oh god, there's also the art from U is for the Unstrung, because Salty Water, who did our podcast art, did all of the anthology, is working through all of the anthology stuff. Oh yeah, Salty's amazing, and did the coolest, creepiest, surreal image of the puppet with the eldritch horror kind of breaking through the background, but it's actually the negative space of a cracking stained glass. Oh, it's just so good. And then Randy, who's done a lot of fan art for me, did an incredible version of Frank from SCP-6677, and also a really cool banner image for SCP-7007 with all the main characters. And also, this isn't stuff for me, but anytime somebody writes a Victim or a Vanguard article, I feel like a vicarious sense of victory from it. Just because, oh, look, I made something that, or, not just me with Vanguard, but, I was involved in making something that inspired someone to write a whole other piece of fiction. And anybody that ever works on those things knows, I would hope, that I would like to keep my hands on those things and I would love to see it. And I offer, even though I don't really do crit for randos anymore, I do it for almost anything that has Victim or Vanguard in it, because I don't know, I want to control that stuff. Not control it, but I want to, be a guiding hand on the till.
Force you
I don't want to
do what I.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to be constrained by my thoughts, but I also just kind of want to like, tell them my thoughts. And, it's their article. They can do whatever they want. But yeah, listen, if you are an artist, if you're doing videos and you want to adapt something that I or Harry or any SCP author has done, trust me, you will make us incredibly happy by doing so.
Absolutely.
Pure endorphins. It's insane. There's nothing so incredible as getting, a piece of art or a video or somebody writing an article based on something you did, and it's like, oh wow, people are reading the thing I made. Yeah, but if you want to see any of the fan art I just mentioned and a whole bunch of other stuff, I have it all up on my author page with the artist permissions. It's under a collapsible, so it doesn't take over the whole page. But
yeah,
sorry,
that kind of reminds me of Gizmo's memes, which I'm always deeply pleased. He just churns them out at an extraordinary rate. I'm always very entertained by them.
He's so creative with them. Like, they're never sometimes I'll go and try and make a meme out of something on the SCP Wiki, and it's like pretty low effort. I'm just like making a shit post. And Gizmo's stuff is always so fucking clever. Yep,
he's always very good. I don't know how much of it is me doing the Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the TV gif, but because it's hey, it's my stuff. This is funny because I recognize my own things, but they're always really high quality and they always make me smile, and I'm always happy to see them. And he does an extraordinary number of them, and doing a lot of work promoting us, I think, by doing it, because he puts it on Dank Memes from Site 19, and
yeah, absolutely,
deeply appreciated the ongoing engagement of the people who read our stuff. I
think Gizmo, who's also responsible for the victim stuff with SCP Peeps that we mentioned earlier.
Right.
I mean, other people also worked on it, but I think Gizmo is like kind of responsible for that. I'll just see strangers in like the official, the Discord talking about victim and just being like, who, what, you know about my thing. So that's just, that's incredible. And no longer do I get random stuff of just going like, oh, it's just politics. I'm sure people still think that, but whatever.
The secret is to make the people who have the bad opinions feel bad about saying them.
I just don't talk to them.
There you go. That's a good way to make them feel bad.
That's not to say you can't criticize. Of course you can criticize.
Of course you can criticize.
We'll be nice about it. It's not hard.
You think it would? Right. It must be just judging by people, but yeah. All right.
Yeah, well,
next.
Okay. What is? And this is from Space Stealth.
Didn't I read the?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
You're stealing my fucking. Jesus Christ!
And already ruining this whole fucking thing.
Oh my God! Let's just stop. Let's just stop right here. Okay. So
stop the podcast. That's it. The podcast is over.
It's over forever. Last episode. Surprise! Happy New Year. So this is by Space Stealth. Is that the next one?
Yeah.
What is your favorite piece of SCP media, images, audio, etc. you have made? ?
Unfortunately, I have another long answer. Because Anyway, SCP 7007 Misfortune Gorge, which I wrote with Vivarium, so I didn't write it entirely by myself, obviously. But what I did do by myself was I took, this was starting about mid last year, I started doing tweets from Vikander Need. I have a separate Twitter account, and I just use it to like pretend like they're really in the real world. And then I started saying, hey, some of these are good. What if I turn them into little commercials? And then I became friends with Jack Mockery, who is a up-and-coming voice actor, is getting too big for me to ask to do free things probably now, because he's actually getting works in upcoming video games. Go follow Jack Mockery. He's great. And we did videos. I did they're basically still shot images with some overlay effects, and a narration of videos from Vikander Need as ad breaks in the game show of Misfortune Gorge, and they turned out ridiculously well, and I'm just so proud of them, and it took so much time Video editors, hats off to you. Because I also ended up, and I used a whole bunch of images, and a lot of them are really funny, but some of them just look like random commercials. But I also included an image in there from SCP-2000, but I erased the word that's actually in it, and I just said on top of it, this is a blatant ripoff of SCP-2000, which implies A, that a victim is fully aware of SCP-2000, and B, that it was like a meta sort of like reaching through the whatever. This is why
if it's a real database article in the universe, you wouldn't call it a blatant ripoff of it, right?
Right. So that's why when people have asked if I have done pataphysics, I'm like, yeah, victim.
No, I will not explain what I mean by that.
No, just figure it out for yourself. Also, I mentioned earlier the SCP, the images for 6602, A Season of Waste. Writing the article maybe took like 4 or 5 hours. Doing the images probably took like 25 hours.
It's been fun watching you figure out all this stuff.
Yeah, and that was earlier on. And those are really detail rich because the idea is it's a mausoleum that wants to communicate, but it can't because everything is silent within the mausoleum due to the anomaly. So the stained glass is how it tries to communicate. And it doesn't do so with like words. It's just imagery. And so the stained glass is morphing and changing as the SCP agents are trying to get out of the mausoleum. And then those are what the images are. And I think they turned out really well.
They did.
And a lot of them are just, hey, here's this stained glass, thing that someone had put a CC compliant picture up of, and then it's erasing bits of it and then making it look like there are other bits that are within the actual stained glass from SCP iconography or language or whatever.
Yep.
And it was super hard.
I bet.
And then for some photo edits that are just I'm really kind of proud of, In the Carpathians, which is a Pairwatch article I did with Pentagon, where it's basically a hiker stumbles on a Department of Abnormalities bunker in the mountains, hiding all sorts of Davite stuff, and I wanted to give it like a real sense of place. So I took pictures of bunkers and pictures of old ruins, and then I manipulated things within them to make it look like they were these really abandoned places and not like tourist attractions.
Right.
And I also made a peach look like a human head, so there's that. I don't even know how that worked. So yeah, those are my answers.
Those are good answers.
Oh wait, and SCP-7796, which is the photo edit that looks like it's actually from a TV show, but where the talk show host is a sentient meatball man.
Oh, right. Yeah. You edited my edit of the lobster in there. That was funny.
I remember I sent you the finished product, and I was like, all right, I know this probably isn't that great. What do you think?
What?
Because I don't know. I just immediately think like I'm missing something. You're like, no, God, just post that.
That looks good. You did it. I was legitimately surprised because the original image is very filtered and fucked with, and I was surprised you were able to clip it out and have it look natural. I was very impressed at how much you've grown. Yeah,
I took his head and put it onto the actual talk show host's body. It was Dick Cavett, and took it, and then he's interviewing Anthony Quinn because that was an archive photo, like in the Library of Congress or something.
It was fun.
Yeah. Go read that article, goddammit.
Yeah.
7796. Anyway, what about you? What media things are you proud of?
Well, the images on the last SCP article that I posted with placeholder McD, Laren, and Steph Lynch.
Oh, yeah.
5th episode of Admonition, which I was hinting would be coming out in the last episode, which is now out. Existential Abatement, SCP-7243. I think most of the images in there that I did that are photo bashes are the best of the photo bashes I've done on the site, and I'm very, very proud of the multicolored explosions in profusion. I think they're quite pretty to look at, and I'm quite pleased with them. a lot of the ones that I've done before, I'm quite happy with, but I generally get happier with whatever the newest ones are. I'm trying to make it so that each one is at least as good as the stuff that I've done before. The two that I was probably the proudest of for completely different reasons before that are in SCP-5520, The Rabbit Hole, which is about an insane, sad reality bender living under Site-43. I have an image of a lonely silhouette standing in front of a subterranean factory that I think is very striking.
Oh, yeah.
I was very pleased by that one.
It's haunting.
Thank you. It's spooky. The original version, I had to make a completely new version because people changing their licenses on images, which is illegal. Don't fucking do it. It's not worth going to court over, so I had to redo the images. But the new one looks better, and that's kind of how it always goes. Actually, one of the images in 7243, I discovered that CC Search, the engine that we used to find these CC images, had cached an earlier version of an image that was in a Creative Commons compliant license, and the jackoff who made the image subsequently changed it to be non-commercial, which means you can't use it on the wiki, and I had to redo the whole fucking image because CC Search told me the wrong license, and I wasn't happy about that. But the new version, again, looked a lot better. It's nice. The second time I do it, I always go, if I have to make this image twice, I'm going to at least get some virtue out of it and just make it look better the second time.
You pour your frustration and anger into making it look cool.
Yeah, emotion always improves art. Just the different kinds of emotion. And in this case, it was an image of an explosion, so pouring the anger in there probably helps with that. But the one that I feel proud of, even though by its nature it's not like fantastic, because it doesn't have to be. If you look at it without the filters I put on it, because there's a pixelation filter on it, because it's a still frame from a YouTube-like site that's supposed to be low-quality phone audio or some shit, so phone video. So it's pixelated, which hides most of the evil of the laziness of the photoshopping, so it looks real even though it's totally not. But the reason that I like it is because it's so fucking stupid. It's from SCP-7000, and it's a picture of Dr. Weddle out on an assignment that goes terribly wrong, because that's the whole premise of SCP-7000, is they always go terribly wrong for him. And the caption on the YouTube video that somebody has captured of this event is "Fat Idiot Gets Wrecked by Kangaroo." It's a picture of Dr. Weddle getting kicked by a kangaroo into an industrial barbecue, and there's hot dogs flying everywhere. And I'm very proud of it, just because it's just so fucking stupid.
Yeah, those images for 7000 are so like impressive because they are so believable. They're very ordinary in a lot of ways.
I tried very hard on those ones.
Right.
I was hoping I might win the contest.
But yeah, they're all very. I like the one where you can just see his feet because he's just fallen out of frame.
Yeah, it's a training montage where they're all out there with their guns and their tactical, and you can just see his feet sticking up, and he's completely inverted somehow.
Because somehow they decided that was a picture that needed to be in the official documentation.
Yes, of course.
So stupid.
Suck it, Willie. It's in your article now.
Oh, it's so good. But yeah, existential abatement. I know it's doing fine, but people, Jesus, that's a real. I mean, I liked all the admonition stuff. Obviously, we've talked about it before, and we'll do a whole episode on it pretty soon, I think. But yeah, this one is. Obviously, I'm a fan of yours already. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this. But I do really think this is success is the wrong word. It is so technical and so confusing what you guys wrote. And yet, it's so easily readable. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's got placeholders best technobabble, because it's completely insane, and I read it and I go, yeah, I get that.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't understand, but I get it.
There wasn't a moment, even though it's decently long, and it is and it is full of strange concepts. There is not a moment that isn't me going, okay, following. All right, what next?
Yep.
And you somehow turned that into this incredibly personal story, which is,
Well, we spent a year on it, so it's good to hear. Thank you.
Yeah. It's I mean, I told you guys in Discord, but
yes, you did.
What a fucking success that was.
All right. End the series off well, because I don't mean the Admonition series, which is still going strong, but we're getting towards the end of Series 8, so that was probably going to be my last big one in Series 8. I imagine the KCON comes in January.
Yeah, everyone's been saying that, and so I thought we were down to like double digits of articles, and I just did a search, and we have like 153 open slots, and I was surprised. But I know we typically announce it when it's close to 100, so.
Yeah. What are we at now? 160, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Am I reading this one, or are you?
I can't remember. Just one quick note.
Oh, no.
Art Exchange will probably push it forward a lot, right, when they start posting the Art Exchanges, because a bunch of people
probably
on SCPs.
Yeah, probably.
And nobody likes to delete a Christmas present, even if it sucks. So carry on.
Yeah.
I can't remember who did read this.
I think I'm reading this one. Yeah, because
Okay,
I answered
why
first
not?
last. This one's from Lemon Sense. You're both given the opportunity to rewrite one article on the site. It doesn't matter if it's an SCP, a tale, or anything. What would you pick? Let me just say before you answer, I found this to be a trap. This question's a fucking trap. I am not doing this. I mean, I have an answer, but like I was like sitting there going like I don't know. Like do I pick something by somebody I don't like? Is that what I'm reading?
I thought you meant it was a trap because of the way your brain works, where you immediately refuse
Oh,
a new
no,
idea,
no.
and then you think about it for a minute, and then you have to do it. So now you'll have
No,
to
that kind of did happen, but luckily the thing I chose, it'll never happen, so it's fine. Anyway, you go first.
SCP-043, which is by an unknown author, and so I feel perfectly fine
Safe.
slagging it off
Yeah.
anytime that it comes up. Have I complained about it on the podcast? I can't remember or not.
I
probably
don't
have.
know which one is that one.
It's, I think it's called The Beetle. /search SCP-043. And it's not because it's my number that pisses me off. It's because it's a crap article. It's a tiny, short little thing about a vinyl copy of The White Album by the Beatles. And the great thing about this article is that everything about it is wrong. Like, everything about it is wrong. Everything that they can possibly have said incorrectly about how a record works is wrong. It appears to be a vinyl copy, and then they talk about it like it's one record. The White Album's double album. They call it The White Album. It's not called The White Album. That's not clinical. It's called The Beatles, colloquially known as The White Album. They talk about how it's like one record that'll play from start to finish, and when the 29th track is reached, well, it doesn't have a 29th track. It's got 4 sides. It's a double vinyl album. You're talking about a CD now. And then fucking... Eleni Fish Truck, please come back so I can complain that you did image replacement for this article and you put a picture of a CD-ROM digipack as the image for this vinyl album. which I don't actually hate that happened, because it makes this article look worse, which is good, because it should look worse, because it's rated at 0.3 plus 345, and I want it to be deletion so I can rewrite it, because it's so fucking bad. Everything about it is wrong. Like, why do you want to write about vinyl records if you've obviously never touched a vinyl record?
No kidding. That makes me think of probably my favorite comment I've ever gotten on any article, which is on SCP-7007, and somebody wrote this deadly serious dissection of why I was wrong, describing how audio analysis works. It's like a 5-paragraph essay you would turn in high school. Like it's this whole thing, and all I could say to this person was, "That's the funniest thing anyone's ever written on one of my articles," because it was like, tell me you didn't really get the point of this article without telling me. Like it's a joke. It's supposed to be funny. Like who? That's not the point.
Comments are just so fucking funny.
Who cares if the audio analysis isn't the way? I mean, thanks for the critique. I'm not bashing that person, but it just was like, wow, talk about hyperfixation.
Yeah. The thing with this one that always gets me about it is that that's the entirety of the article. It's like 300 words long. Like, it's so short that it has enough time to go, there's a spooky ghost in the record, and then every other word is spent being wrong about how records. The article is essentially about the author doesn't understand records. Really
Good God, why is that over 300?
It's garbage.
I have
and I don't feel bad saying this because it's
articles.
Unknown Arthur. Good old Unknown Arthur, my good friend. It's an unknown author article, so if they get upset or pissed off that I keep saying everywhere I can that I hate it, then maybe they'll tell us who they are and we can cross them off the list.
Yeah, I just think it's fucking, I have like 3 articles that are over 300. Like, why is this nothing article? Series 1, Jesus.
Yeah, like, just because it's early. It's so early that you get through and you go, yeah, it's all right. This isn't garbage. And you come back and you go, this isn't even a story. This isn't anything.
Yeah.
This isn't, like, even the short, that's the thing that people don't understand. They go, well, everything's got to have a story now. You got to have a narrative. And the old ones, they all did. They all have stories. All of the ones that survive that are good, they have stories. They might be small stories. They might be telling you just one thing, but they are stories. The ones that are bad are the ones that just go, it's a thing, and I have nothing to say about the thing that's interesting other than, wouldn't that be spooky?
Yeah.
And I hate this article. And it's bad, and I can't rewrite it because it's rated plus 345,
right.
and it's written by an unknown author, so it's just going to sit there forever.
Yeah, you could really do something cool with it, seeing as that's your number.
Well, yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Anyway, placeholder, and I have some plans, because we might tie something in with the temporary secretary series.
I love that article. My answer is also kind of a safe answer, and I'm not bashing the author because I like Clef, but I would like to rewrite and mostly reformat the GOC hub. I think it's just a mess, and it's sort of boring. Sorry, Clef.
Yeah, it could use a little bit of work for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I really like that hub. When we did that episode, which was I think the first one you were on, because no one else was ever on the show.
Right, the first episode, you mean, yeah.
Well, the second.
Only episode. No, obviously, even the one that you were in by yourself.
It doesn't exist. Yeah, it doesn't exist. I read through that, pretty in depth, and was just like, there's some great stuff on this hub, but the hub makes it hard to find.
Yeah, it needs tidying up, and it needs streamlining, and it needs expansion, and it needs some visuals, and it needs quite a bit.
Yeah, but
a lot of the old
GUI
hubs are like that.
Yeah. So that's my answer.
That's a good answer. Answer.
Thank you. Also, I just love doing hubs. Oh, Jesus, I really need to do a hub for our Department of Procurement and Liquidations. One more thing. All right. Next question from Lemon Sense. Oh, I read the last one. Wait.
Right. Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Okay, so you read this next one.
Dinner with any one person, alive or dead. And just skipping any maudlin real talk answers to that one, I'll just say I'd like to talk to an actor named Richard Bamer, who played Ben Horn on Twin Peaks, and I want to tell him that I think he's one of the best actors of all time. I just want to tell him that, because I've watched Twin Peaks a few times all the way through, and I'm always struck by what a fantastic actor is, and he seems like he'd be a cool guy, and he's probably going to die sometime soon. So,
which character was he?
Ben Horn, the guy who owns the Great Northern Hotel.
Oh my God.
He acts circles
wonderful
around absolutely everybody who he shares a scene with, and he's just always doing something. He's just always moving, or he's got like
he's so good
props, and he touches things, he moves around the set. He's just phenomenal in every scene, and I don't think he gets enough credit for it.
It doesn't. He's wonderful in it. In a series that is full of wonderful, crazy characters,
super memorable characters. But he just like sucks the camera focus right onto him whenever he's there. Even when he's got the worst plot line in the episode, sometimes he's amazing.
Yeah, he does have some dumb plot. He's got some terrible plot lines in The Return.
Yeah, he's got this.
It's just, I don't give a shit, dude.
His plotline in The Return doesn't like even go anywhere, but it's still like, well, Ben's here. That's nice. I can see Ben.
I just like absolutely adore the way that he eats that baguette in the early. I think it's like episode 1 or 2.
The sandwich scene with
butter.
him and his brother. It's that's the scene for most people. I'd like to imagine that's the scene for most people where you watch and you go, I'm gonna watch this show. I'm gonna keep watching this show.
It's just like it's just like a baguette with like it's just a fucking baguette that he brought from Paris. So it's an overnight flight. It's not that fresh, bro. Like you can get baguettes here.
They're just these weird epicures, and they just love this sensual stuff so much that they're both losing their shit over this fucking sandwich.
What was so funny is he's such a scumbag in other parts that he's like kind of irredeemable in a lot of the moments up until that point, and you haven't really even seen him with his daughter at that point, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, I don't know, I kind of like this guy. Yeah, that's how I feel about Fresh Bread too. So yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. It completely takes this character who you only see as like a negative character most of the time in the early episodes, and then you go, boy, does he ever like that bread though. It's pretty cool. I kind of like how much he likes that bread, even though he seems like he might have murdered a teenage girl.
It's not spoilers, don't worry.
No, pretty much everybody who lives in
everybody
town
is
a suspect.
Yeah, the worst problem that show had was solving the murder.
There's a scene in the show where he's watching an old videotape of his dad like breaking the ground for the hotel or whatever, and just watching him, I don't know if he's got a cigar or something, or just watching the camera just sits and watches his face as he watches this video, and he just acts so goddamn much. Just watching the look on his face and the body language. He's just such a good actor, and I want to tell him.
Yeah, fair.
And I feel like dinner with him, I'd have to ask him if he likes the bread as much as I like that bread in Twin Peaks.
You're like, you go to a French restaurant, and you're like, huh? Okay.
Can you do the thing?
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay.
He's like, yeah, that was 30 years ago. I don't really. Anyway,
my answer would be Kurt Vonnegut. Maybe not that interesting of an answer, but
that's a good answer though.
I worship that dude, which is the most tropey fucking I'm a 40-year-old white man who likes to read and write. Of course I like Vonnegut. But like he's one of the most important authors of the 20th century for a reason. Like I've literally listened to recordings of him giving talks. I would just like to get drunk with that dude so badly. And unfortunately he died, so.
Yeah. Well, luckily the question allows you to meet a dead person, so let me know how it goes.
All right.
This is happening. This is happening, right?
Yeah. Of course it's happening, yes.
Okay.
And finally, favorite pizza toppings, because why not? All right, you go.
Green olives are the choice for me.
Just green olives?
Just green olives. I love green olives on pizza.
Okay. I don't think I've ever had green olives on a pizza.
Oh, really? That's a fairly common thing where I eat pizza. I really like green olives on pizza. I don't much care for black olives. They don't taste like enough of anything to me.
I like black olives on pizza, but I think green olives would be better. Well, I can't eat.
If you're one of those, just try eat some green olives and imagine the pizza.
Yeah, I do have some garlic stuffed olives in my fridge right now.
I like green olives, and a lot of people just fucking hate olives, and I
big fan. Yeah. Green are so much better than black.
They are.
My favorite, and I don't really eat pizza anymore because I'm like lactose intolerant, and the sauce typically makes me sick. My stomach is a mess. I'm a big foodie, but like I got to be careful with what I eat.
Yep.
But my favorite was always and will always be barbecue chicken, which is like chicken, cilantro, red onions, barbecue sauce, and cheese. Like it's just so good.
Chicken on pizza.
Yeah, chicken on pizza. Like I never got that when I was a kid, and then as a young adult, started to see more expansions to that before I started developing stomach problems.
That's good. I like feta on pizza too. Feta is
feta in general.
Hungry.
Feta on everything.
Feta on pretty much everything. Fuck, I'm hungry now.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I won't tell you what I just made for dinner.
I'm gonna put some of the turkey we had that my dad made for Christmas. I'll put that into some kimchi noodles.
Ooh, yeah, hell yeah!
Turkey goes really well with that for some reason. I don't know why.
Kimchi noodles and any kind of protein is a good time.
It does seem to work out that way somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Even animals they don't have in Korea.
Yeah, turkey goes well with anything where it's a sauce or a broth because it absorbs so much of that flavor.
It does. That's right.
Because it's bland as fuck otherwise.
Yeah, well, this was really well put together turkey. It's really,
I'm sure.
Really, I know the word is now popular as a horrible word, but it's a very moist and very flavorful turkey. So,
also, guys, moist is a perfectly useful word. Okay, everyone calm down.
Right? I work with moist, and he's just lovely.
we did Chinese food because we're Jews. Yeah. It was a good time. I ate way too much Chinese food.
That's very Christmassy though, because they do that in the Christmas story at the end.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And it's racist.
How dare they appropriate my culture?
Appropriating. This is the newest piece of Jewish culture appropriation that I've heard of, is stealing Chinese on Christmas.
It's so funny when I tell people that there aren't that many Jews where I live. Even though in Southern California there's plenty of us, but there are not the area I grew up in, not in any place I've ever lived. And people will always be asking, why did Jews do that? And I'm like, because it's open. And because we don't celebrate Christmas. Also, it's delicious. Like, you gonna say no to orange chicken? Yeah, right. You're wrong.
Oh man, now I want like kung pao chicken or some shit. God damn it, Grigori.
Sorry. We also have Mongolian beef, which is probably my favorite thing in the world.
Oh, I have some. Oh my god, I have some summer sausage from Hickory Farms. Like, God, oh my god, that's so good. I always get it for Christmas. That would go well on pizza. Summer sausage on pizza. Fuck.
Oh yeah, that would be really good. Especially better than the sausage they normally put on it. That oily shit.
Yeah. Oh well, like fuck it. You know what? Just to continue this pointlessly forever. Like, my dad makes sourdough bread, and it's so incredibly good.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that.
And he makes sourdough pizza as well. He makes the pizza crust for pizza. So we don't even have any other kind of pizza anymore because there's no point anymore. He makes this sourdough stuff, and it's so much better than anything you can get in the store. So the sourdough pizza, and then green olives, and if we could put that, put that summer sausage on there. All right, we're doing our own version of the Twin Peaks scene at this point.
Yeah, sorry. My friend just told me that they ate a tikka masala pizza, and I've never been more jealous in my life.
That sounds good.
I want that, and I can't have it. I can't eat tikka masala or most Indian food because it's either dairy or tomatoes, and it kills me.
Intolerance. We just need to get intolerance out of the world. It solves all the problems.
I know. All right.
Anyway, SCP.
Yeah. So you read this. Well, someone has two questions. So why don't you read the first one?
Okay. One.
And then I'll answer. Stop messing with the pattern.
Yes. All right. How do you ensure that everything you write in a long story doesn't contradict each other?
Rereading and revising. So you could write a whole show Bible if you want, but I find that takes the endorphins of the actual writing away from you, and then I don't end up writing the thing. If I write, it's why I say, when I've said before on the show, that I write very loose, very non-detailed outlines, if I do one at all. So I don't do that. I instead, and it's more time consuming, so it sucks, but you gotta like reread the stuff you did before, especially like, for example, with Hecatoncries, I wrote it over 4 years, so you know there are even some plot holes in there.
No.
Yeah, I know.
On the SCP wiki,
I know somebody was like, this part wasn't really addressed later on. It's like, okay, you write a novel on the wiki. No, I'm just kidding. I appreciate it.
Fuck you in real life.
I'm gonna revise the whole thing and turn it into an ebook. So it was good for notes.
Right.
But rereading and revising. That's the secret. You need to read over the thing that you wrote last time. If it's a long form story and you've wrote a chapter last night, you probably remember what you wrote. But if you wrote it last week, your memory is probably not as good as you think it is. Yours is, Harry, but there's, you need to
bad.
Right. Well, you gotta take a look at what you wrote before and be like, okay. And it's really important if you want to make something that has a consistent tone. A series of short stories, that doesn't matter as much. If it's a long form thing, you gotta make sure everything kind of feels right together. Otherwise, it's just, you're gonna get to a chapter or a section and you're gonna be like, well, that part felt weird. Why were we reading that?
Right.
Especially, if you've left the draft alone for a while. If it's all one piece, and you wrote, 1,000 words of it, 6 months ago, and you're trying to pick it up, reread that thing before you do anything. Mm-hmm. Outlines can help a lot, but like I said, I always try to keep them very loose. What I mean by that is I maybe throw out a 1 or 2 sentence thing about a scene I would like to write or a conversation, but I don't write all the details of it because then that just becomes the thing. But yeah, reread the old stuff.
Yeah, the answers I have listed to this question and also the question that comes after that you're going to read are 1, I don't, and 2, I don't. But yeah, how do you make sure it doesn't contradict each other? The long version of I don't is people are lately telling me, like, this doesn't seem to fit, and I go, fuck, and I go and fix something. But the answer when I do successfully do this, and I used to be very good at this, and I've gotten worse and worse as my brain has molded and melted into a puddle in my skull, is I rewrote stuff from scratch after having written it once. So you write the whole thing, and then you rewrite it again with the old one in front of you, and just fix anything that comes up that's wrong. But the answer Grigori gave is really the only good answer, which is read it again and make sure you didn't fuck it up. Although at this point, I feel like I need a On Guard 43 wiki to keep track of who the fuck is doing what at what time, and who the fuck is doing who at what time, and just the amount of shit that I've gotten, characters that I've gotten, and times that I've covered. It's just a nightmare. But it's worth it because making a long-form story where things are interconnected and all that is some of the most rewarding stuff you can do with this kind of thing. So,
yeah, and it's really fun to read because I just read Wrong Tomorrow, all 825 pages of it or whatever it was.
It's almost 300,000 words long.
And it doesn't, because each chapter does a pretty good job of being not self-contained, but like I could tell that the writing on the wiki has really had an effect on you because each chapter kind of felt like almost a short story that interconnected with the other short stories.
They are, yeah.
But yeah, you did a real good job there. People need to go and read that, either on the wiki or go, hey, I don't know, send some money to Harry Blank by buying it.
Yeah, I still need to do the ebook of that.
Yeah, I got sick of waiting.
I'm so fucking stupid. It's because I got to the point where this series, the central date of this series is the 8th of September 2002. So both books came out on September the 8th of sequential years. And I really had to make that deadline because I realized that I could, even though I had been slacking off all year. I realized you can make it if you power through August. You absolutely can, and you absolutely should, because you have OCD and you really want to put this out on September the 8th. So I did, but the only way I could do that was by not coloring the illustrations as I was publishing the book. And to not have them colored meant I couldn't do the ebook, which has color illustrations. The print book has black and white. And then while I was posting to the wiki, every time I would post a new chapter every couple of days, I had to colorize all the not yet colorized images, and that took forever. But now that that's done, I can actually do the ebook. I just haven't. And the funny thing is, like, as Grigori says, if you want to throw me some money, don't do that by buying Wrong Tomorrow. I would get 3 cents for every purchase of Wrong Tomorrow because it's so fucking big that Amazon won't let me make a profit on it unless I charge so much money for it that I would feel like I'm gouging my friends. Bury the Survivors, I get like $1 or $2. I think it's not as terrible. But Wrong Tomorrow, I believe I get actually 3 cents.
But you'll get more with the ebook.
The ebook version is mostly profit by comparison. But the thing about the hard copies is that just having them is great. So like, don't think if you want that, and don't think that I'll be like, oh, you're not actually giving me money. Like, no, the idea that people have those in their houses and they send me photos of them, and I'm always just super pleased to see it.
Buy both.
That's my book.
Buy both.
Yeah. Well, read one first and decide if you want it. But it's just, they're so fucking big. They're so big.
Yeah, I often will read in the evenings. And the sun goes down so early these days because it's winter, that I'd be sitting on my front porch reading where the light is, because I tend to smoke when I'm reading. Sorry. Anyway, I know. It just was this big fat. Anytime when my girlfriend came over or like a roommate came in, and they're just like, "That book is insane," and I'm like, "I know who wrote it."
It's so big. It wasn't supposed to be that big.
It's nuts, yeah. Okay.
It's out of control. So yeah, question 2.
Question 2.
Oh wait, no. Did you? Yeah, you answered first, right? So
Yeah,
this is your turn.
Yeah. How do you find the motivation to write, to get behind the computer, per se?
I don't. Yeah. So
Yes, you do.
not having had it done yet is the only motivation I have. Like I sit here and I love writing this stuff, and that's fairly obvious because I've now written more words than anyone in the history of the SCP Wiki on the SCP Wiki. But like I love doing it, but I have unbelievable amounts of executive dysfunction. Like because I love doing it, I just can't do it half the time.
Sure.
I just happen to have a lot of free time because of the nature of what I do. I'm presently making money just writing for AFRE, writing for SCP-5K and other projects that they're doing, and
Using that PhD well.
using my PhD well. I am presently helping somebody with their citations for their dissertation and getting paid for that. So I'm doing at least a little bit but I need to publish my dissertation and everything. But it's eventually just knuckles down. It's just a thing where you just gotta start doing it, and it doesn't matter if you're not into it. Just start hitting the keys, or just start scribbling on the paper. Start tapping or swiping on your phone or your tablet or whatever the hell you do. Talking to a fucking microphone if you have to. Use a voice to text thing to take voice notes. Do anything, but just start doing it. And that's always the thing for me, because I mean, I had written hardly anything in the last little while. I was doing lots of work, but I hadn't written anything for the wiki in a little while. And for this Christmas, I wrote about 31,000 words of stuff because I had to do a short Christmas tale, because I always have Christmas tale, but I had to do pinch hits for the art exchange, and I had to do my main gift for the art exchange, and I had to give a few things to the people who did the art exchange because I wanted them to feel good, because some of them have been going through some hard times. And I just sat down and I went, it has to be done by Christmas. So it was. So set yourself a time, set yourself a deadline maybe for getting something done, and then just sit there, and even if it's coming out crap, don't worry about it. Go back and fix it later. Just start. Force yourself to start. And if it doesn't feel right, if you don't feel like you're in the mood, doesn't matter. Just go anyway. You can come back later.
Here's a big fat secret. You'll never be in the mood.
That's right.
I love writing for the wiki. I haven't done nearly as much as Harry, but I've got 90 pages on the wiki. Almost none of those did I feel like being there until I was in it. And then I can't do anything else. And it makes me crazy, because now I work in 9 to 5, and it'll be like, oh, it's like close to midnight. I'm in the middle of writing something. I need to go to sleep because I need to be up in the morning, and I need to be somewhat fresh, to do what I do. And
it's addictive in the middle, but it's so hard at the beginning.
Yeah. So the way that I have done it is I have gotten to the point where I tie my sense of not self-worth, but like I'm not really sure what the right word is. I don't feel good unless I have written something recently. Right. And if enough time passes without me writing something, I feel bad. So what I've started doing is making a habit several days of the week, typically on weeknights. I will sit down in front of my computer. Instead of turning on the video game, instead of turning on YouTube, instead of watching a movie, I will just sit in front of the computer and type away. And it is now part of my weekly schedule. And when I don't do it, I feel bad, like I'm letting someone down, when that only person is me. Right. So I like to feel creatively productive. If I don't feel creatively productive, I feel bad. And I have tied my mental health, I don't know how this happened, but it did happen, to being productive for things that I give a shit about. So that motivates me to get things done. Sometimes I set deadlines for myself, but I don't typically do that much. It is very effective, but I don't want to be thinking about a deadline, because then sometimes I wait until it's a little, not too late, because I always get them done by a deadline, but I can push it off and make myself more stressed out. So instead, sit down, a couple of nights a week and just write. Right. Brainstorm if you have to. Write those fucking notes down. But then, don't just worry about notes, okay? Don't get lost in world building. Don't get lost in plans. Do something. Because the more I finish, the better I feel. And, now and for the last year and a half or so, except for those couple of months of unemployment, I'm working all the time, so it's hard to get. But I used to do an article every couple of weeks at the minimum. And, that feels good. So focus that. And the SCP Wiki is a great place to do it because you can do it relatively short form and get it out and get feedback and then move on to the next one instead of working for 6 months on a novel and then getting feedback on that. So use the SCP Wiki if that's what you want to do. Use your blog. Use I don't know what some of the other available fanfic type things are out there because I don't bother with them, but use them as a place to get that fix and formulate a series of patterns, because this is just like working out. You never feel good before you work out. You feel good during and after. So even if it's painful, sit down. And if you are losing your mind and you've been staring at the computer for too long, go take a walk. Bring your phone right on the phone. I do that all the time. And I've written whole fucking articles on the phone. Not directly into the wiki because Wikidot is the worst, but and you just internalize some of the simple CSS you're going to need to use, and you just start going. And then I email it to myself, and I copy paste it.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's what I do. All right.
Good.
What? You read the last one. No, I read the last one. So you read this next one from Akulio. Akulio?
Where am I? Akulio. Yeah. Favorite author pages on the SCP Wiki? This is the part where you answer, Grigori.
Yeah. Obviously, I love Harry's.
My author page, I was just talking about that today. It hasn't been updated properly since May of 2021.
Oh, what?
I haven't been putting my SCP stuff up there. I've been updating the containment class tally that shows how many classes I've used, but I haven't been putting up my little reviews of my SCPs this whole time.
That's funny.
I need to start doing that.
Wow, how many things have you written since May 2021? Jesus, that was 2.5 years ago.
Probably more than 100 pages, yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
2 books.
But, yeah, no kidding. I would also say visually, Aiko's author page is incredible to look at, and Pepper's Ghosts author page.
Pepper's Ghosts author page is great.
Yeah. So those are just vibrant as fuck.
I don't know if we talked about this or not before, but were you on? I can't remember whether you were on or not when Pepper's Ghost first started posting the CSS and stuff when he was it was so fucking funny. He started posting what looked to everyone like tons of blank pages, and we couldn't tell what the fuck he was doing, and it's so impossible to get contact with Pepper sometimes. And he's just posting pages with nothing on them that are fragments and they're extra things and components, and we're like, fuck is he doing? What the fuck is he doing? Everybody was losing their mind. It filled the whole latest pages thing. And what is this? And they're downvoting it and shit. And then he finishes Voltroning them together into his author page with these cool trading card things for each article. And we all went, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's visually stunning. Oh, and also Disidron's author page is also fucking incredible for similar reasons.
Nice. I think Pentagon's is going to be as well. It's already pretty cool, but I believe he got, for Art Exchange, he got new CSS for his author page, which is very nice.
That's very cool.
I would name 2 of them. One, they're both actually contrarian kind of answers, but that's fun. One for being consistently one of the most visually arresting, as in it causes seizures, Rounder House's Rounder page, which is just designed to be obnoxious as hell. It's just an assault on the senses. Although right now it looks like there's some weird shit going on with the CSS, and half the page is on the left hand, almost the whole page is on the left hand side of the screen. So I don't know what's going on there. Probably Wikidot. He's got gyrating pistons inside of his sidebar and all kinds of horrible shit, and it's entertaining. But the one that always I remember is Crockett's downvote page. which is the author page of Crockett Lawn Chair, who is an author who has, and I'll read this from Crom, a total of 5 pages, 4 SCPs, 0 tales, 0 GOI formats, 1 others, that'd be the author page, with a total rating of +6 and an average rating of +1. Because Crockett Lawn Chair's downvote page, their author page, is a page that asks you to downvote it, and its current rating is -520. And author pages run on a different deletion schedule. You don't get deleted unless you don't fit the criteria to be an author. So I don't actually know if it's he or not. This author's been gone for ages. Last page they posted was 4 years ago. But they basically set up their author page as downvote my author page, please. So everybody who goes there, except for the contrarians, pretty much do. So it's at -520. It completely tanked their rating. It completely tanked their average, and it's really funny. Because their latest page is I think it's a /J001 proposal, and it's at +241. Right. Their total average is +1 because of this page, just dragging it right into the mud, which is a really good way to get out of the whole rating game, honestly.
I guess so, yeah. That's funny.
It's not a very great author page other than that, but it's fucking funny of it. So
it's funny, yeah.
I'll always take a shit post over a serious effort. So
let's see. All right, Elf Lawyers.
Who read that one? I did.
It's your I guess I
think this is
answered
you.
First last time. Okay, so Elf Lawyer asks, what canons, GOIs, or concepts...
This is great content. Just every question we go,
I
who's
know,
the last one?
I know. What canons, GOIs, or groups of interests, or concepts do you want to expand more on, but don't have the right story or idea yet?
Wow, they called us moron right in the email. That is just super rude. Well, I guess I'm the first moron. All of them, basically. I don't write enough in other canons, famously. And I have always tried to use the GOIs as much as I can. I wrote a whole book, essentially the unpublished, but on the wiki published first book, the Time After Time Password, was just using as many group of interests as I can. And I want to get them all involved in some sense, because I like the idea of my universe being holistic and using all of the different toys that everybody's put into the toy box over the years. I enjoy piling all that stuff on there. So I kind of feel like using everything that I haven't used already. So in terms of, is there anything that I haven't done anything with that I really want to do, nothing really stands out. Just kind of most stuff I haven't played with, I kind of want to at some point. That's my shitty answer.
No, it's a good answer. My answer is more specific because there are lots of GOIs that I don't care about, and lots of them that I like. I like a lot, but I don't want to write for. Nice. I'm gonna be a broken record and say that not Rouse. Yeah. I'm gonna be a broken record and say that Deva. I think there's a Crazy World article in me about them, but I haven't quite cracked it yet. And I don't want to just do what other people have done. I obviously use the Deva a lot in my series, and I did the Deva hub, and so that was very lore focused. But I definitely want to do like a creepy, weird, like, but also like kind of out of left field Davite article, and I haven't quite figured out what I want to do with it. Yeah. Also, as I said, I think the last time we did a question and answers, I have dedicated 2024, no, not the whole year, but like I am doing a 3 Moons article. I'm going to figure out how to do a 3 Moons initiative. I'm going to have Dave fucking review it. I am going to do this fucking GOI proud, and not just as a joke. Because I've done it twice as a punchline, and I like both of those things very much, but I want to do something totally original about Corbinic.
I lost you there for a second. You just like stopped, and then there was a little stretch. It was spooky. I thought you'd like been taken away to an alternate Earth.
To Corbinic. I got taken away to Corbinic.
You got taken away to Corbinic. They took you.
Luckily, we're recording.
Luckily, you can call by the phone, right? Because you've got the app in your brain.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Inside references. Yay.
All right. UNC Griffin. I think you're reading this one. Yep.
All right, I can do that. As two authors who have many, many original characters on the wiki, which character that you have created do you like writing the most?
So I got two answers for this. I like Lucretia Popescu from Resurrection New Faces and His Will Be Done. She's just so much fucking fun to write. She always, in every story she's in, she is reserved the best lines.
Yep.
I'm constantly, and have been like for 20 years, joking with myself in a bad Russian accent. I used to make my friends laugh by doing a bad Russian accent. I'd say things like, "If not broke, why fix?" And I don't do her quite that ridiculous, but she comes out very much, and it's just kind of me poking through, and she kind of, as much as she's capable of great violence, she's also just constantly being snarky, but in this very ESL sort of way, and I love her so much. I know she's a trope, and I don't give a shit. Also, she's a buff, sarkic lesbian who can tell an immortal to their face to kick rocks. It's fucking awesome. I love her. She's the best. And yeah, come read the latest tale with her, which is Oruk in the Orchard, which is in the Vanguard.
Good tale.
It stars her and Clef and Varus and Oruk the Clavigar. And it's very violent and gory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was originally even bloodier because
That's
it
right.
kept saying the bloody ground.
The word
over and over
blood.
again.
Yeah. It's so in Vanguard, I have been doing this series about the Sarkics trying to like kind of gather together and kind of change the way the world looks at them. And one of those things that they have to deal with is all the fucked up things people have written over the years about Sarkics. So each of the articles has been them tackling one of the kind of famous Sarkic articles on the SCP Wiki, and this one was The Bone Orchard by Hammer Maiden, which is this otherworldly place in a olive orchard in Sarajevo? No, it's in it's not Serbia. It's in the Middle East. Damn it.
Gotta get it right because this is going to last forever and people are.
I know. Oh well, I even wrote the article and I don't know what the hell. Anyway, but the point is, it's like this otherworldly space where the trees are made of bones and the ground is bloody.
Yeah, that's definitely Sarajevo.
No, it's not. It's not Sarajevo. It's in the Middle East. I know. But anyway, there was a lot of blood. So there was literally like, hey, Grigori, stop. You said blood here. You said blood here. You said blood here. Stop it. Are you serious right now?
It was specifically the blood-soaked ground. It's starting to like
just call me Homer.
Starting to become Homeric. I said to you, it's like you're just repeating this phrase like it was the wine dark sea, the blood.
And also,
ground.
wait, did I lose you?
I'm starting to think there's a lot of blood in this ground. It's a really good tale. Everybody should read it.
Oh God, I hope I didn't hear any of that. So hopefully that you got that.
I did get that.
Okay, great.
Yeah, team. I was complimenting your tale.
Oh, sweet. So Mari McPherson is my other answer, and she's just so much fun. She's the only recurring, basically the only recurring character in Vikander Need stuff because she is the vice president of public relations. So she's the one that'll send emails to the SCP Foundation or take customer complaints when they're Dado or any number of things. And she is, the way I imagine her is the platonic ideal of misanthropy buried underneath several layers of public relations and corporate doublespeak. Right. So she hates everyone and everything, but she can never reveal that fact because she's got to constantly speak in a way that will not get her sued.
That's a good description. I like that a lot.
Yeah. And it peeks out from here to there, but she's always got a smile on her face, and she's, she also has no eyes. She's got bandages around her face, and she's constantly bleeding. But she's just hilarious to write, and it's very fun to make her the mouthpiece of Victim. I always said there would be no Wondertainment, but Mary McPherson has kind of become that in some ways. She's not, because you don't need to use her at all for this GOI, but I like using her a lot, especially when she takes over Twitter. I mean, Viber. Excuse me. So those are my answers.
For me, it's probably... This is... I don't know, I was trying to give a non-expected answer, but I can't really. It's usually Lillian Lillehammer is my favorite one to write because it comes, like, instantaneously. It's so easy. She just contrarian, smart ass, doesn't care what you're talking about, and is smarter than you, and that's a lot of fun to write.
Yeah.
I never have trouble writing Lillian Lillehammer, for better or for worse, for sure. And probably Dr. Weddle as well, just because Pathetic Idiot is also just a mode I can seamlessly shift into for some strange reason. Those are probably the two that I enjoy writing the most.
I'm
Which
surprised
is good
you
because they're
didn't
my
say-
most famous characters.
I'm surprised you didn't say Dr. Dan.
Oh, I love writing Dr. Okay, you know what? Actually, Dr. Dan is in that triumvirate as well. Dr. Dan, the Magnificent Bastard, and my pale knockoff of my... Dr. Dan isn't a... I have a character called Dr. Sokolsky, who is basically my first pass at what I ended up making Dr. Dan be like, who's also very fun. The Magnificent Bastard character is just terrific. Mm-hmm. The character who has got the scheme in place, and the scheme has layers, and the person making the scheme has layers. Dr. Dan has got a deep backstory thanks to where he came from on the wiki, created by Dr. Dan. I've completely stolen him, so he's my character now, so I'm quite fond of him.
Shit. Because you've been so generous as to let me play with that character as well, we've both written more stuff than Dr. Dan ever did with that character.
It's true. We've completely supplanted Dr. Dan for interpreting Dr. Dan, the character.
One of my favorite fan card stories that I've written was Dr. Dan goes to Washington.
Goes to Washington, yeah.
He doesn't actually go to Washington, spoiler. He goes to make a speech in front of the UN. But all we ever hear is him answering questions and being just sick of their shit. And it's the most fun because it was like, let's take the mad bastard, the one who's smarter than everybody and likes to tell you, and make him try to do PR. And I was just, well, that story is something I'm writing. Who would go in front of the UN? Well, it shouldn't be Dr. Dan, so it should be Dr. Dan.
It's got to be Dr. Dan.
I mean, because, Moose would have been a better choice, but, like, that would be boring. That wouldn't be a fun story to read at all. Just be a speech.
Yep.
All
Dan's lots of fun. I'm glad we acquired him.
So good. So much fun. Also, I really like writing the Spectre.
Oh, the Spectre's fun.
Yeah.
But
not my character, not our character, but we've written a lot more.
Oh yeah, the question
Spectre.
was original characters, man.
That's true.
So only Dr. Dan counts because Dr. Dan is now my original character. I have erased Dr. Dan.
That's right.
I've stolen him from himself.
All right.
This is a joke. I did not create Dr. Dan for legal purposes. Carry on.
He's got the best part of SCP-7000 in my opinion. There's lots of great parts of SCP-7000, but
I was
his
really
part
offended. I'm glad you clarified.
Well, deal with it.
No, I wasn't. Carry on.
I know.
No, yeah, the ending with Dr. Dan is pretty fun.
It just brings it all together so fucking well.
I had a lot of fun.
He's such a good character for that. He's such a good character to be like, I want to bring this home in a way that can explain everything, but I also want to do it in this like heartfelt way that's also kind of funny and too smart for your own good. He's just this everything character in so many ways, and he's so much fun to use.
I'd like to thank the contests team for creating a theme that was precisely tailored to allowing me to win with the tools at my disposal. Anyway, carrying on.
And Ip. Thank Ip.
Yes. Oh, fuck. And Ip for so much inspiration with the lamest story never told. Just terrific.
Which people, go read that fucking article.
Great tale.
I know he deleted his account and he doesn't get the ratings anymore, but that's a great fucking goddamn thing. Read it.
It is. It's terrific. And when he inevitably makes an account again, he'll get reattributed. But and then Uncle Nicolini wrote me a. They wrote me a art exchange prelude to 7000 that I'm very pleased by as well. So
yeah,
that'll be going up on the wiki sometime soon.
I crit that, and my crit was like 2 sentences to suggest, and the rest of it was, "This is great." I'm sorry, I'm not more help.
It's great. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. I was really pleased to get it. Nico is an absolute gem.
Yeah, we'll almost certainly talk about that one next week.
Yep.
And I want to talk about Billis thing, which I'm not going to spoil, but I crit that one, and most of my crit was, I really like this. This is funny. I love it.
Billis crazy.
Yeah, this is Billis doing Victim.
Oh, God.
And it's so fucking good. I need
the
people
mental image
to
of
make
that.
this. It's so fucking good. Ugh, it makes me so happy. I'm not gonna say anything else because I don't know it. All right, next question from Fern. Am I reading this or are you? I'm reading this. Okay, considering you both are highly skilled authors, debatable. Which would you recommend a new author try when contributing to the SCP Wiki? SCP or Tales? Obviously, use the crypt forums for both.
I would say you should do SCPs first, because the standards are higher for posting an SCP than posting a tale, and this will require you to actually do the work to make sure that you are doing your best and getting crit. If you write a tale, there is a chance that if you are at least competent, it'll survive even if it kinda sucks or you could have done better. So starting with an SCP, learning the format, learning the rules, learning how to write within limitations, and learning how to get crit on stuff that people are more eager to crit and that requires crit to get it to succeed is, I think, a better place to start. That's what I would personally say.
My answer is I think it depends on what story you want to write.
Of course,
don't force it.
Yeah, good point.
If you, I don't give a shit about. I mean, I wish more people read Tales. As somebody who's written more than 40 of them, and you obviously know this as well. That doesn't matter how popular SCPs get. Tales really don't get as many reads. Yeah. I have 1-2 Tales that's over 100. Mostly they kind of sit around the 30s, 40s, 50s at best. But my girlfriend reads a lot of stuff on the SCP Wiki, not because I forced her to, but she's gotten really into it, and she is always saying how much she prefers the prose in Tales. And a lot of people that haven't read SCPs for years find them less intimidating. So, I mean, I think it all depends on who your audience is and who you want them to be and what you want to say. I don't think any of that shit matters because that's all philosophical stuff you can think about later. What matters is, what do you want to talk about? Does what you want to talk about fit in SCP? Can you make it fit in SCP? Do it. SCPs are fun. And the constraints of the creation in SCPs, because we have to do clinical language and there's certain expectations of it, although those have gotten looser over the years, means that you are forced to write in a certain way, which is a good exercise. But mostly, I think SCPs are useful because you start with a core idea and then you just kind of go nuts with it. If you want to do it well, your article should not be about whatever your core anomaly is. It should be, but it also should be an excuse to go and do something interesting. But if you want to tell a slice of life story, Tales are fucking great. So, don't worry about having a cool idea. Don't worry about ticking a box. Worry about something you give a shit enough to write and that you want other people to read.
That's a good answer.
Not just because you want to be an author, but because you really want this thing that you've made and you want to share it with people. As much as I love getting a high rating on things, it matters more to me when people actually have feedback and, talk to me about the thing that they've read that I've, and that's why I started doing it, because I wanted to share it, because I can pass along my writing stuff to friends and family and maybe they'll read it. Probably they won't. But having a community that actually bothers to read to some extent is good. So utilize that, ruminate on the idea, think about how you could be explored, and then expand outwards. If that's a tale, great. If it's, and it could be a tale about something popular. It could be a tale about something random. Who gives a shit? There's a lot of fucking cool prose on the website.
I agree. That's a better answer than mine. It's good.
Okay. You read this next question from
Sum1 again.
Sum1.
Hi, this time this question is specifically for Grigori Karpin. Luckily, we happen to have Grigori Karpin here with us today.
Where?
My guest today is Grigori Karpin.
Hello.
Can you talk about your research and how you have done it on 5923, if you remember it? This is the place I belong, right?
Yep.
If you remember it. Have you ever visited the village? This is the village of Kayakoi, however that's pronounced. And how would someone go about writing about a culture and or a place that they don't have a lot of experience with?
So, interestingly enough, I live in Southern California. I have not traveled that many places in the world. I've been to Mexico, I've been to Israel and Paris, and I've been all over the U.S. But I felt like there was already too many things in the U.S.
Yeah,
so I have spent almost my entire time on the SCP Wiki writing things that are not in the U.S. Although I have done a few.
It's true.
And Vikander Need is kind of about the U.S., but it's not really because it doesn't really matter where it is. So this became very old hat to me very quickly. I would go and I'm trying to tell a story about a certain thing, and it's loose. It's kind of a newborn idea, and I would start looking, sometimes on Wikipedia, sometimes on travel websites, and I would start looking for a location. I've done a lot of spooky locations as opposed to humanoids, and this one, which I'll talk about later on, because there's another question that kind of goes into it. This one, I was going for something very specific. So I wanted to find an abandoned place, but a place that used to have people, not just ruins of a temple that looked cool. I wanted someplace that felt real, so I thought about finding something that was real and not just making up a fictional city. And then I found I don't know how I tripped up on Karakoi. I think it was almost certainly on a travel blog. And I started reading up on it. I read the Wikipedia. I read one historical paper on it. I read several Turkish travel blogs, which translate through Google were rough, but I wanted to write something that was about loneliness and the desire to interact with people. So it felt like the perfect thing. So yeah, I looked at hundreds of images of the village, even though I only used one, because I wanted to it was very important. This was a city that is alive, but also the ghost of a city that was alive. So I needed to get a sense of place. I needed to have a feeling that I was there, and that if you were reading the article, that you would feel like you were there. So when you read the article, there are parts of it where people are in a dream version of the town, and I wrote those. I have two, I have a side monitor and my main monitor on my laptop, and I wrote those with the side monitor, which is bigger, with like 10 different images of the town up, just so I could look at it as I wrote. So after I had researched the history of it and kind of thought about how I wanted to write it, it was mostly me just looking at images of it to try and recreate that feeling of walking down those abandoned streets, but in written form.
That is so gratifying to hear the words, a sense of place. Like, as a architectural historian, I do a lot of stuff on specifically that. That's the actual academic term for a sense of place, and it's super cool to hear about that. I mean, your archaeology interest obviously shines through there very clearly.
Yeah. I mean, most archaeological work is done on graves and trash, but the things that we all care about are the structures that have survived, or the temples, or whatever. And that's what sucked me in right from the beginning of watching Indiana Jones when I was a kid. So, and yep, that's why I studied archaeology, and yep, Daredevil's why I went to law school. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Apparently you really want to moonlight with violence.
I mean, it would feel great. I don't want to be Catholic, but otherwise I'm on board.
He's out to beat up gangsters and face melt the Nazis.
And then defend people to the, they're wrongly accused or whatever.
And lecture on barrows at university.
Yeah, and then, instead of interrogating witnesses, not interrogating, but getting witness testimony on the stand, he'll just make a speech. Because the people that write Daredevil, both the show and the comics, just want to make this man write a speech. Hey, objection. The defense counsel is making a speech, Your Honor. Sustained. Shut the fuck up. You're supposed to be asking questions.
It's not a soapbox.
You get to do that at the end in closing. Shut up. All right. I'll read this next one from Sum1. For both of you, what are y'all's favorite fictional foods?
Oh, it's down here. Okay. You're interpolating this one. I have them listed in the wrong order. Okay, cool. I have never eaten any fictional foods.
That's accurate.
I'm sorry, it's the first answer that came to my mind, and it's far and away the best one.
My answer, the first thing that came to my mind was ranch dressing because I refuse to think it's real. It's a nightmare and it's disgusting. But I don't know. I don't really have a great answer for this. Fictional really foods, I don't... This is sort of a joke, but I'm also would be curious to see what it tastes like. The spice melange?
Of course.
I mean, I just can't think of a book about fictional food. I definitely don't want to eat anything they eat in Warhammer 40k because that's all mass produced. Also they make corpse starch out of it. Fucking 40k is bleak.
You think? Oh, I think
it's grimdark,
bleak and unpleasant. It's always almost described as a nearly religiously unpleasant experience. So I might want to try one of the sausages from Ankh Morpork from Cut My Own Throat Dibbler in the Terry Pratchett Discworld books. They're apparently just sausage in a bun. They're apparently just absolutely horrific in a transcendent way. So I might want to try one of those just to experience it.
A horrific sausage? I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it's basically an extended dozens of books jokes about the uncertain provenance of the meat in a street vendor's sausage in a bun. There's my answer. Yeah, I could really go for a sausage in a bun. Oh, damn it. This is really painful. What's with you fucking people and your fucking food questions?
It's okay. It's all right. I think that's the last one.
All right, so...
Does the black moon howl?
Only for those with an unwavering desire to hear the truth.
Access granted.
You have been selected for an opportunity, an orientation as a trusted associate, if you will, into the secured, contained, and protected files of the Foundation. SCP Unredacted distributes new files for review Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern on secure channels on YouTube, Spotify, and scp-unredacted.captivate.fm.
Hey there, fans of Simply Creative People. We're still mostly unsponsored, so any financial help you can give us through Harry's or my Ko-Fi helps keep the show running. If you can't support us financially, just try to spread the word about the show. We've grown in the last year of production, but I think there's still a wide audience of SCP fans out there who would get a lot from our podcast. Finally, in every episode we leave a link in the description to my author page and to Harry's, along with our guests. Consider clicking through and checking out our work. We've both been so pleased to see the growth of the show and hope you'll consider reading some of our stories on the wiki. Thanks so much for all the support during this first startup year of the show. Here's to 5 more years of episodes.
Yep.
All right. Okay, let's see.
I got cashews. Crunch.
Great. Best show ever.
Yeah.
Okay, so I read
Totally
the
threw
last
him
one,
off his
so
game.
read this next one. This one's from Chimera. It starts with "Did y'all?"
Starts with "Did y'all?" Okay. Where is it? Oh, okay. Here it is. Okay. Did y'all, before this podcast even began, ever think you would be where you are today? No. But the question continues. In terms of maybe where you are in life and or with the podcast itself. I can see how the first one may be too personal, so it is advised at your own discretion. No, I am absolutely flabbergasted every day.
Can't stay with this pattern for the life of you.
What?
If you read the question, I answer!
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that was just my temporary answer until it's my real turn.
Right,
So your turn.
of course.
Your turn. Go on.
I mean, same. No, not a bit. I mean, I did this because I've always wanted to do a podcast about SCP. And luckily Harry wanted to come on board. I never
And
thought
that's how it
people
started.
would want to... Yeah, that's right. I never thought people would want to listen to us ramble.
I know,
And the
right?
idea that there are hundreds of people with every episode that listen to us talk about this stuff is great.
Jeremy E. Cash.
And I mean, it's constantly humbling and touching, but it's also like a little surreal. Like, what? That's not real. Same thing with the writing.
Real surreal,
Honestly, same thing with the writing, though. I always wanted to share my stuff, and it has been a little bit surreal that people actually want to read it. Not that I'm like number one popularity or anything, but enough people read everything I post, and that's an incredible feeling.
It is.
So, this podcast has worked out way better than I would have imagined, honestly. Thank God you wanted to join up.
It's been great.
The amount of people that have joined the community and actually, joined the community, as in going on the wiki and writing or voting or, becoming staff or whatever, that started off just as fans before they became fans of the show, before they became actual members of the community, is crazy. And the amount of people that have told us, that, hey, I listened to that show and then I made an account. It's like dozens and dozens of people have told me that, which
Nobody
is
ever tells me this at all.
Well,
Sucks.
You just sort of sit
Tell me
in the
first
corner
next
and
time.
Grumble.
For fuck's sake, tell me, you fucking selfish
They're
pricks.
they're too busy telling you something you got wrong in your
They're
story.
too busy telling me about the typos I've been making lately because my eyes aren't as good.
Every
as they used
time,
to be.
every time I see someone ping you to give you a typo, I always want to be like, "Damn, dude! Like, you want to start off like just out of the blue, like, hey, Blake, you did this wrong."
It's because they know that I
mean-
have to fix the
I know.
Amazon version of the book, so I need to know when they fix a typo. But lately, they're
No, I
just
know.
letting me know on things that are only on the wiki. It's like, I don't just fucking fix it. I don't need to know this. But then people will fix my articles, and I'll go, that wasn't a typo, and I'll get mad at them because I want to have it both ways. Wasn't
right.
it supposed to be
You
a
should.
question that was like designed for us to talk about how grateful we are for everything?
I don't know. Maybe.
I am super grateful. I am super pleased that I can spend my free time and my paid time working on stuff with this community and just getting engaged with it and contributing to it and seeing other people contribute to it. And I've met so many very good friends of mine, and it just means a lot to me. And no, it didn't even begin to occur to me that my time-wasting COVID 5 seconds of thinking maybe I could do this and maybe I could have some fun and have an article on this website never would have occurred to me that it would go this far. The podcast, though, obviously,
Yeah.
I knew that was gonna set the entire world on fire.
That's right. 300 people at a time.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just honestly, everybody that's listening, and if you've listened to other episodes, read any of our stuff, just to be sincere for a second, thank you.
Yeah, big time.
Just
Thank you.
Genuinely, thank you for listening. It's one thing if we had 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 listeners or whatever,
good.
but that would also be great. But it's just so fantastic that we have this core audience and that people actually give a shit, because this is so much fun doing the podcast and writing and getting people to talk about our stuff.
It's phenomenal.
It's
Please
amazing.
tell 1,000 of your friends each.
Yeah, please spread the word. All right.
Do you guys
when
like
did-
hearing Coke cans open? We've got a podcast that you just fucking love.
got a podcast for you. All right, next question from Chimera. Why did you wish to begin doing your podcast?
Yeah.
Harry, why did you want to create
Why
this
did I
podcast?
want to create this podcast? Well, there was a lot going through my mind on the day that I approached Grigori and I suggested that we might start an SCP podcast. But the main thing that I was thinking about was, I can't remember. For some reason, the tapes have been lost.
Nope.
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
so Grigori, what's your answer to this question?
So
you wanted
when
to
I
bridge
was
the
first,
gap, as I recall.
That's right. Yeah. Definitely wanted to create a place where
we do
offsite fans could. Did we do it?
Did
I
we
think
bridge the
did it.
gap? Shit! Did we forget to bridge the gap?
I wanted some place that we could showcase articles and get people that were off-site, but maybe had a little bit of an interest, and felt intimidated by trying to find things on the wiki to get into, so that we could showcase them. So we could say, hey, here's something cool. Here's a subject, you know, and the whole let's talk about GOIs first was just, this is just an excuse. Like, we can just look at these specific kinds of articles so we don't get lost. Yeah. Well, we haven't been that great about getting out episodes, but
resolutions.
You know, and yeah, no kidding. And I thought maybe we could do a show that could satisfy that urge, but not. I didn't want to just do it to satisfy, like to talk about our stuff. Like I really wanted to say, here's these cool things. And I will say that since we started doing the show, I don't know if it's responsible for the popularity of our things on the wiki, but I have noticed a significant difference. You know, like people pay attention, and you know, it's not that big a deal, but it also means something to people in the community, and it means something to me. So, you know, I just wanted a chance to be like, hey, there's a lot to shit on the wiki, and I know it's intimidating, but here's 8. Just read these. Pause and click on that link and see if you can't take the time to do it. And I think it's worked out pretty well so far.
It's very noble. I thought it would be fun to talk and just hear my own voice, but your reason's good.
I mean,
too.
that's also true. Like I always wanted to do like radio.
Yeah, you got a radio voice. I don't. You do.
Yeah, you have a fine voice. I don't understand why you'd say this, but I always wanted to. You know, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I thought, wouldn't it be fun to do one where we just discuss and have a conversation about the SCPs? Because that just isn't a thing.
Yeah.
For the most part.
People just read
There's
them.
a couple of YouTube channels that have tried it and then kind of fallen off, and they were just like reading them from 001 onwards, which, you know, that doesn't work.
The secret is you have to be old enough that you only have the energy to do things you actually intend to keep doing.
That's right, yeah. But yeah, it's pretty cool, and it's pretty cool that this is episode, 37?
Fuck.
Yeah,
That's how many years old I am.
I wish that was how many years old I am.
In your heart.
No, in my heart I'm 30.
In my heart I've always been about 80.
Yeah, I've been waiting my whole life to tell those kids to get off my lawn. All right, you read the question 3.
All right. It poses a hypothetical. Perhaps a user wishes to make their own stories in the future. Ooh, time travel. What tips would you give them in order to help one improve their writing and make it more interesting?
Read more.
Read more.
Like a whole fucking lot.
Everything.
I seriously read probably a book a week. Sometimes when it's a longer book, it takes me 2 weeks. But I also read numerous articles on the wiki. If you want to write, you need to learn how other people write. That is not to say, and we've said this 1,000 times, we are not saying that you go and look to steal ideas. You are just reading a lot to immerse yourself in the written word, to learn techniques, because there are techniques. To learn, you know, how people shape a story or pace a story. Pacing is probably one of the hardest things to learn. Other than, you know, writing interesting characters, because God knows there's a lot of boring characters out there in fiction. When you start writing a draft, finish the draft before you revise. Don't try to start editing if you see a flaw. Don't worry about that. Just get it to some place where you feel like the story is roughly complete in whatever state of quality that it is, and then go back and start looking at things. You know, I think I said in an earlier episode that how I learned how to write legal was to first revise for substantive issues. So look at the overall themes and the plot. Does that make sense? Then go back and look to make sure that it's consistent. You know, does one scene flow into the next? Does the pacing work? And then finally worry about typos and misspellings. You can internalize a lot of those things, and I do those now, but it helps to do those 3 sweeps when you're first starting. But wait until you're done. Also, write your stories modularly. Okay? Think about, instead of worrying about your big story and looking at it from a mile up in the sky looking down, get into the weeds and write each chunk as if they are a piece that you can then play with and then rearrange as necessary. Don't be afraid to say, hey, actually, if I wait to tell this part of the story until later, even though it takes place chronologically earlier, that will be more rewarding for the reader, because then it'll provide a reveal, even if you didn't plan on it that way. I think about it in ways that you can take this piece and move it here or there. That's why I always say write a loose outline. Mm-hmm. Be comfortable jumping forward and backward in time. Not like time travel, although if that's what you want to write, go for it. But tell a story out of order. Right now I'm reading one of Dan Abnett's Gaunt's Ghost books, and it's a story about a specific battle in Warhammer 40k. But the meat of every chapter is actually a flashback to an earlier engagement. And then at the end of the chapter, there's about 2 pages of what's happening modern day, and then it leads its way into the next flashback. And that sounds confusing, but it flows like genius, because what he's doing is taking the time to explain something about this character he wants to focus on, which wouldn't make sense in the middle of a battle. Obviously, that only works if you make the pacing work, but jumping back and forwards in time is a great way to stagger a reveal.
For sure.
The oldest advice in the fucking world is show, don't tell. People don't really understand what that means, I find. So the way I think the way I care about that is, do not tell me how someone feels. Show me through descriptions of their body language, the look on their face, the tone in their dialogue. Not saying they had an angry tone, but use words in such a way to communicate that they are pissed off. And your dialogue will sing. That is the right way to make any character feel real, I think.
That's very good advice.
Well, those are my answers.
Those are really good answers. I agree with everything that Grigori said.
See above.
That's it. Nope, I'm done. No, yeah, I don't have a whole lot extra to say, because those are all the main points I think that most people would give you. Most people who actually know what they're talking about will say that, because Grigori knows what he's talking about. So that leaves me very few good things to say. The main thing I could say is take a story at the pace that the story seems to demand. If you're writing a story and you feel like it has to get to the next thing really quickly, and has to get to the next thing, and has to pile in as many things as possible, it will feel like you rushed it. If you write a story that isn't really about very many things, and you drag it out to try to make it look like a long story, it will feel like you dragged it out to make it into a long story. Don't be afraid to make something shorter, and don't be afraid to make something longer if the stuff that you've written is too long and just it doesn't get to your point. You can lose it. If the stuff that you've written doesn't feel like it's earned the conclusion that you want it to earn, then maybe you need to do some more work and you need to spend more time on the stuff that you've been writing. Just understand that every story has its own specific value that you can get out of it and that the readers can get out of it, and try and plumb as much of that as possible. I know a few people who, Dr. Sumerian, I think his favorite approach for writing stories is he's got a thing he wants to achieve, and he wants to get in there and achieve the thing that he wants to achieve and get out, which means Sumerian has fairly short stories that generally have one big impact or a punch or a joke in a lot of cases, or justify him giving it a punny title, and he does it that way. I always try to completely and utterly, totally exhaust the potentialities for an idea, which sometimes results in me writing entire books about one SCP after the fact. But whatever your approach is, just be aware that the story's length is not defined by how long you want to write it. Don't be like a fucking high school student going, it has to be 10 pages long, so I'm just gonna stretch it out. And don't also feel like you can't write long stories. It's just, don't aim for that. Just let the story be what the story wants to be, and trust your instincts on that. And then when your instincts are inaccurate because all your critters tell you it's too fucking long, take them seriously. I don't, but you should.
Yeah, I forget who said it, but it's a famous author who said "kill your darlings."
Kill your darlings. Yeah.
Which is
and another famous author said "cite your sources," and I can't remember who that was either.
Yeah, not necessarily kill your characters, although if that fits, it fits. It's I really love the idea I had for this article included this story included this chapter, but if it doesn't work and it's taking away from the pacing, don't be afraid to cut it down or cut it out entirely.
Yep.
And if like Harry said, if you feel like you get to the next point and like, I don't know if I feel anything once we get there, and that's where reading your own work comes in. Objectively, like sit there and read it and go, what do you feel about it? Add a sense of place can often add a lot to it. So how does that alley smell? What are the sounds that the person can hear?
But yeah, exactly.
I mean,
that was just,
it was
just beautiful, just out of nowhere. How does that alley smell? I'm gonna clip that.
I'm thinking of a specific scene in my book, but how do you want to tell people that the character is near the ocean? Do you just want to talk about the fact that the beach is pretty, or do you want to talk about that there's salt on the air and that the lapping of the waves is rhythmic or whatever? It's a really boring thing because that's been done 1,000 times. But like as an example, talk about the surroundings. Don't just sit there and describe in nitty-gritty detail how everything looks, because most people don't look that detailed around at the things that are surrounding them. Give a sense of feeling, of tone, of atmosphere by telling us how something smells, how something sounds, what's the temperature like. Just you can add a lot to a scene by giving it a sense of place, so that somebody could actually feel like maybe what it would be like to be there.
Right. Makes it not feel like it's happening in a vacuum, unless your story is set in space.
Yeah,
but that's a sense of space. That's different.
Don't say the character was hot. The character is sweaty. Talk about the fact that like they can feel the rings growing underneath their armpits, it's soaking through their shirt, and then just leave it at that. And then the reader will go, "Oh, it's hot and it's humid. They're sweating."
Stand by for Grigori Karpin's story. People smelling terrible in filthy alleys.
Well, that one's not from me. That was from the Dan Abnett story. I just remember they're in this horrible jungle.
How did that alley smell while the rings were growing under my armpits? That's actually a good starting line. I think I'll...
Yeah. All right, I'm going to read... Wait, am I reading this? No, you're reading this next one.
Okay. No, I did read that one.
Oh, you're right. You've, of course, read many different SCP articles. Which ones really stood out to you and why? Also, fuck you. I'm not doing a detailed answer like we did last episode.
Yeah. For some reason, my answer was like... I'm looking at my answer and it says... The ones that make a point about humanity, i.e. sci-fi. Now, what did he mean by this? I guess what he means the past version of me who answered these questions last whatever the fuck. What I meant was the most basic genre of the SCP Wiki is science fiction. It's not horror. Science fiction is fiction enabled by vague scientific concepts fictionalized. So science fiction's big thing is it's always been used as a Trojan horse for talking about the non-science fictional world, for talking about the human condition, talking about how the world works. It's what Star Trek was. Star Trek was fake pitched to the networks as a space western, and then it was used to talk about social issues. So the stories that make some sort of level of commentary on humanity and the problems that humanity faces are always the ones that strike me as the ones I want to think about later. I mean, I talked not too long ago about the Neon God, and the Neon God talks about out-of-control urban sprawl and anomie in urban spaces and feeling helpless against encroaching forces and such stuff like that. I mean, that's the kind of thing that appeals to me, is stuff that's an interesting story, but it has a sort of a rhetorical punch to it like that.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
And also scary monsters that, like, eat you.
I will say that just as much as science fiction, horror is all about social issues.
It's true.
That's
monsters
why
that
horror
eat people,
matters.
man. That just too much of that going on in the world. You don't mean that these stories are about something else, do you?
Yeah. Well, no, because I know authors that write subtext, and those authors are cowards.
I tried to show that placeholder, by the way. I tried to show him Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. I showed him one episode. He spent the whole episode going, "What? What?" over and over. I think it killed him. I think it's dead now.
What? What? It's so funny.
Yeah, I think it was. He got like really into the idea that this show was like a real show, and just like the offensive incapability of the in-universe people to make a show that even remotely resembles something someone would pay for was like blowing his mind every scene. I think he had to go lie down afterwards. Anyway,
Well,
Garth Marenghi's Dark Place.
Yeah, good times.
I know writers who use subtext and they're all cowards.
Oh my god, I love it. I'm gonna also say a general answer and just say, listen, go read Davy Fool, go read Metaphysician, go read Famine Pulse, read Ip, read Harry Blank. Find an author, that speaks to you, and then read their whole fucking catalog. That's what I've done. So,
And then kill them and wear their skin.
right. All right. You read this next one.
Do I, though? And for the old age question. And for the age-old question. Cats or dogs? Or both? Neither. Cats. But go on,
Cats.
Rory. Cats.
Yeah, cats. I love dogs. Dogs are amazing.
Dogs are
But there's nothing so good as a cat climbing up on your lap and curling into a purring ball.
They're so lovely when they do that, and it's especially made lovelier by the fact that sometimes, in fact most of the time, they don't feel like doing that, so it's special when they deign to give you their presence, whereas dogs are pretty much always ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're never like, I don't feel like it right now.
Yeah, they need it. Whereas cats are like, I could go without, whatever.
Yep.
I grew up with cats, and they're how I first related to animals, in a personal way, other than just like going to the zoo or something, but that's not the same thing. Cats are so fucking cute, and they're also so fucking mean and indifferent, and that's what is great, because getting a cat to love you is so good. Getting a dog to love you is holding out a piece of meat.
Right.
Dogs are great, but cats are a whole nother level. And let me just say how much I fucking miss having a cat. I hate my life without a cat.
Jeez. Dark.
Well,
guess you need a cat.
I must, yeah.
God, cats are great. Yeah. Dogs are good. I like dogs. People need to shut the fuck up about dogs, though, like lately. Like it's starting to seem like weird cult pod people thing. Like, there's some people who I think get up every morning and the first thing that comes into their head is dogs, and the last thing they think before they go to sleep is dogs. And I don't know what's going on there, but it's scaring me a little.
Yeah, and the whole sense that like somehow cats are like bad or mean or what, it's just fuck off.
People
like,
who just
because
so
you don't,
just
because you don't know how to relate to a cat doesn't mean they're not awesome.
Oh, I don't want.
They're awesome.
I don't want any relationship I have to put effort into. It's like, all right, okay. So do continue to put this on your dating profiles on the internet and shit. Like, I hate cats. I don't like dogs. It's like,
I had a cat.
Let everybody know that you're emotionally unavailable
17,
unless it's
18,
easy.
Adopted Sarah, and my parents had cats, and so we kept my kitten that I adopted from a friend in my bedroom because we didn't want the adult cats to murder her. Because they don't always like it when a new kitten comes around.
Nope.
Sometimes they're pretty cool with it, but for the first few weeks of her life, because she was really itty, really tiny, I kept her in my room, like had a separate little sandbox for her and fed her there. So she slept every night with me, and I think I kind of became her mom. I'm not sure like how that worked, but she didn't imprint on any other people in that fucking house. There were 6 people in that house, and if anyone picked her up, she didn't kill them. She wasn't like one of those cats that would murder you and scratch you, but she was like, I hate this, and would squirm to get out of it. I picked her up, she immediately started purring. Even when she was an adult. And there's nothing quite so good as being the only person in the room that this cat loves. When I met my ex, she had a cat that I fell in love with, and I got that cat to like me more than she liked my ex. and my ex had raised that cat.
That's funny.
I would literally call to Callie, and Callie would come running to me, and she would not do that for my ex. Yeah, she deserved it, so it's fine. Anyway, all right. I guess we both answered that question.
I guess we did, but I think I'm the one who asked it.
Yeah, and that's good, because Bottom Quark has a question for Harry, so I'm going to read it. As winner of the SCP Wiki Word Count Olympics, how can you write so fast? Is there a set daily routine? Do you make it a point to sit down and write every day or something?
No, I type fast.
Yes.
I type very quickly. Yeah, I have less to do than most people. I sit in my basement, or I walk around upstairs in my big house, and I don't do much with my free time other than that. So I spend a lot of time writing, which is good because I have a really hard time grinding my brain into motion and actually getting it to go. The thing I do for money is I write. Again, I write for Affray, and really enjoy that. It's a lot of fun. And then when I'm not doing that, I'm working on my personal writing, and that's also a lot of fun, and I've always wanted to write. And I mean, I also just spent about a decade preparing to be a PhD, which involved a lot of reading and writing. So really the answer is I've organized my life and my physical organism as a device that writes, and it's the main thing I spend my time doing. So I just kind of get used to it. And a useful answer for other people is just you need to make a space in your life for it. And if you want to write a lot, if you really care about writing, it has to start taking precedent over the other things that are taking time away from it. That does not mean stop socializing with other human beings.
No,
Because other human beings, it's very valuable to socialize with them, because then you can steal the things that happened in your real life and write them about them. That's the main value of having friends, really. But it does mean that you have to do some level of deciding where your hierarchies are for your hobbies and your. Because I mean, as a university professor and a TA before that, I was always really amused when my students would complain and they would say something like, "I just didn't have time to read that," or "I just didn't have time to write that paper." And when I never said, I would just be like, yeah, okay, because the social contract is you acknowledge that this is true even when it's not. But it's like, I was a university student too. I know that what you mean is you chose not to use your time for that. Like, there are individual cases where you actually didn't have time because something happened. But for the most part, when a human being says, I didn't have time, they mean they felt like using that time to do a different thing, and they didn't do this, but they don't like saying that. So now a lot of people are busy. A lot of people do have jobs, and a lot of people only have a small amount of leisure time. And if writing isn't the thing that's going to get your dopamine all the way up there where you need it, then you're not going to spend your time doing that, and there's nothing wrong with that. And if you are legitimately all the time busy and you don't have time to write right now, and you need to find a way to carve it out of your schedule, that's obviously a problem. For the rest of us who are just sort of filled with a whole variety of different things they can spend their time on, you need to make the conscious decision to do it. And it's painful and irritating, and as we've talked about, it can be very hard to start doing it. But for my money, the best way to convince your brain that it's a good thing to do with your time is when you do it and it succeeds and people read it and they like it and they tell you they liked it, then suddenly your brain goes, you know what? I can probably spend some time working on that now. So like, why do I write so much? Because I've never gotten that level of affirmation from people who aren't like already my friends or family ever in my life. So like just doing that and people read it and they go, wow, that's amazing. It's like, shit, I could probably keep doing this. So the rewards you get for starting tend to make the rest of it a lot easier.
Yeah, the professional affirmation, which I've gotten, and I've gotten plenty of it, is just pales in comparison.
Right.
Finding out you're good at your job, or that you're smarter than somebody else, or that you wrote a good memo means nothing compared to someone, and I write a lot of memos.
Best memo.
Memo
of the
means
month.
nothing compared to when someone writes something that you wrote that came out of your personal experience or your personal feelings, and then they found entertainment in it. It's like nothing else. Once I started figuring out that we could do that, I can't live without it now.
Right.
So yeah, it's all about prioritizing.
When we
right
get banned
now,
for sock puppeting, it's gonna suck.
It is, but it'll just be an excuse to finally focus on publishing. So. I have been working on a side project which I can't talk about. I actually can't talk about it.
Yep.
But it's been, it's like got a deadline that is upcoming, and I've been working on that pretty much nonstop every free moment I have. And I bought the Warhammer Rogue Trader CRPG, and I've played it for maybe 3 hours, and I desperately want to play more of it because it's awesome. And I'm, after I get off work, I have 3 or 4 hours in me maybe before I need to, other than doing laundry and doing dishes and making food. So do I use those 3 hours to waste in, a disappearing flash of light that is a video game, or do I write something? And, the answer is you write something. So anyway, he has another question. Or I'm sorry, I don't know Bottom Quark's gender. Bottom Quark says, I've been closely following Wrong Tomorrow's updates, and it's fantastic. How did the whole idea of Site 43 come into your head? You've created so many vivid characters. So many characters.
Yep.
Which is your favorite? Bottom Quark's favorite is Alan. And he's helped me figure out a lot of things about identity. So I'd like to thank you for creating him.
Well, that's really cool. Yeah, this was the book that I wrote mostly this year. Well, not mostly this year, actually. A lot of it at the end of last year, and then sort of all in a rush in the last few months before it came out. How did the whole idea come into my head? Basically, I was sitting there thinking, I've told this part of the story before, but I was thinking I don't want to have to look up the entire fucking site and see exactly how everybody else does shit before I can write my thing. So I went, this place is in the backwater where I happen to live. They probably do things slightly differently, and I'm going to make it up whole cloth. So once I decided I was going to make up a setting whole cloth, I basically went, well, what would I want to be there? What do I like to be there? When I was a kid, I read a book about the making of Star Trek, the original series. And there was a bit in there that said, if we make the ship large enough and give it a large enough crew, any given week, we could walk down a corridor or turn a corner and find ourselves in a room that has an expert in it we've never met before, who's an expert in a thing related to the plot, and off we go to the races. And that appealed to me, just the idea, if you make it large enough and you make it diverse enough, you can always build it up bit by bit, and you can always have a new expert in a new thing that's interesting for the story you want to tell at that moment. And so I thought, all right, so it's an academic location probably, because I know academics and I'm vaguely interested in that. Probably I'll put a dormitory complex, because I like to imagine most academics would like nothing so much as to have a house where they could walk out the front door and be at their job instead of having to commute to some fucking big city. So I basically created the underground academic base of my dreams and slowly populated it with weirdos who do weird jobs. And I didn't have it all planned out ahead of time. The amount of Site 43 that's described in the stories, it's until a certain point, it's not more developed in my head than it is you see it on the page. The elements that existed when I wrote the first article in the series were the elements I had thought through, and they all worked in there. And then when I wrote the next few stories, I had to start actually dividing it up. And then when I first started writing tales about it, I had to actually go like, what does this look like, and what is it like to work there, and how are these people actually communicating with each other, interacting with each other. And you can really see that, I think, because the first few stories, it feels more like an SCP Foundation standard thing where it's a little ominous and there's a little bit of spookiness. The departmental names, the section titles, they all are half benign, half ominous, all of them. And that's just part of that whole general not having had it all thought out ahead of time. Like it's the humanistic site where everybody's nice now, and it has sections called like identity and techno cryptography. I was like, identity? That's a creepy ass thing to dedicate your section to. And that's just the IT department. So it builds naturally, and it goes over time. As for which one's my favorite, it's really nice to hear that the site director, McInnes, is someone's favorite. I've heard a few people say that. Yossi has talked to me. Yossi Posse has said that a few times as well. And that feels like a really good sign to me, because McInnes is one of the ones that I have taken the longest to actually do much with. So it's nice that when one of the ones that I've spent the least time with, that it's taken me the longest to actually get to, just to hear that people like that character. Because obviously I've spent more time with the ones that got the tags first, even if, of course, it was thanks to my friends. Dr. Weddle got a character tag before anybody else. Yeah, good job on that. Which one is like my actual favorite, though? I don't know. It's probably one of the ones that hasn't got a tag yet. It's probably either the Chief of Security or MTFs, depending on the era, Chief Ibanez, or it's Udo Okori, the sandwich, the thaumaturge who handles sand. I'm fond of those ones, but I like all my characters, which is why they exist. They're all just examples of personalities I find interesting to write. And whenever I need a new personality, I just take one of the names that I've mentioned in passing and turn them into a person. The point is, they all exist in my head, and they never shut up, and eventually I have to write down what they're saying, and that's where the stories come from. And thank you for saying that nice thing about the character and identity. I've tried to make sure that all the characters have different ethnicities and different orientation and gender and as much variety as possible, because that's what makes life worth living. It's what makes the human race interesting. It's what separates us from lower organisms, is the diversity of thought and personhood. And so hearing people are seeing reflections of themselves in these characters is good, because that's the whole point of having them be so diverse, is that people can read this and can experience their experiences, see them reflected, and they can also experience other people's as prismatically refracted through my cis white heterosexual fucking brain.
That's a funny thing. Like, somebody was recently talking to me about, like, well, what if we are not the ethnicity of the characters we want to write? Is that appropriating? And I'm like, no, not necessarily. Depends on how respectfully you write them, and whether or not you can realize that no, your experience is not like a black woman's, but you could probably empathize with them if you start to read about what black people have done or gotten understand, etc., etc.
Human beings are human beings.
I'm not a 60-year-old female academic in a patriarchy, but I can start to understand how that might feel and try to use that in my writing of those characters. I would say my favorites are also Udo Okori and Ibanez. Which is funny because I haven't written either of them, but I've written Weddle and Lily. But they're very fun, and I don't know why I made them the go-to people dealing with victim, but it just works.
Those were the two that had...
I can't stop now.
Those were the two that were the most developed at the time, although it is funny that it wasn't Okori, since I sent Okori to your site originally.
I know.
But the two of them weren't as developed until the books. That's where Ibanez and Okori got, because I have so many characters that it takes me time to get around to.
Yeah, too many characters.
Okay. Yeah, the thing about writing about other people
for me from bottom corner.
There's multiple sides to that. Just. Oh, you can't hear me, can you? Now you can hear me.
I can hear you.
It's doing that thing where occasionally you can't, occasionally I can't. It's a lot of fun. Just one last thing on that, writing about people who aren't like you. I understand there's a lot of groups where there's a small population and they've been treated horribly during colonialism, and they're worried about their concepts being co-opted and their lives being co-opted and themselves being puppeteered in fiction. And that totally makes sense. And at the same time, if only those people ever write about those people, no one is writing about those people effectively, and no one's ever hearing about those people, and they don't exist in fiction. So there has to be some level of compromise where there have to be indigenous characters in non-indigenous fiction, because otherwise indigenous people essentially don't exist demographically in fiction, because there aren't enough indigenous people to only write about indigenous people. So you do have to find some sort of a balance where you learn about other people and you respect them enough that you try to write them as human beings experiencing experiences. And sometimes you'll get it wrong, and really just be prepared to get it wrong and be prepared to correct it when you are told that it is wrong, and be respectful.
Yeah, in my book, one of my characters is half white and half Indian. And I don't know what that feels like, but I know what it's like to be half Jewish and half non-Jewish.
Right, there's always a gateway to something like this.
There's some window that you can understand that person's experience.
Right, it's human experiences. They're not interchangeable, but they do connect.
Right. Yeah, our experiences are not the same as everyone else's experience, but you can find overlap and read stuff from those people.
Yeah.
If you want to write a story that has a woman in it that you are not relating to because you're not experiencing that, see if you can't read something from someone's perspective that's like that, even if that's not fiction. Read someone's op-ed pieces, read academic pieces from that perspective. You don't have to be worried about telling stories about people that don't look like you. You have to be worried about telling those stories well and respectfully.
Right. Exactly.
So. All right. So, Bottom Cork wrote a question for me.
Yes. This one says, here for Grigori. And you know what? Me too.
Yes.
Me too.
Aww.
As a student of a related field, I really enjoyed your parody and satire of modern media in VKTM. Are you intentionally involved in these waters, or did it begin with a few scattered ideas that grew into Victim?
Yeah, I don't do anything with media, and I don't have any expertise in media. I just read and watch and pay attention a lot to trends in media. I would never want to review anything, but I think that I am constantly thinking like a reviewer when I'm analyzing something. Right. But I would never want to write those thoughts out. But I am kind of taking things apart and looking at the way that media is produced and the sort of both cynic. The problem that I have with media is that it's driven by business. Yeah. But without that business, we wouldn't get things like, The Godfather or, Brokeback Mountain or, big landmark movies that found funding through the corporate media and got a platform, and so I was able to see it. So it's a double-edged sword, and I'm not a capitalist by any means, but I find it fascinating, and I'm constantly kind of tearing it apart and looking at it, in ways, most of the time being pissed off about something like got canceled.
Yeah.
It began with a few scattered ideas. I've told the story here. Dissidron sent me a series of ideas that Dissidron didn't know what to do with and wanted to know if I wanted to either collab on them or just take them and run with them. And one of them was an idea, had almost no substance to it. It was more of an effect, which was there's something that makes you so scared that you forget what it was, but you remember the emotional trauma. I'm paraphrasing, but that is basically what Dissidron wrote. And somehow that turned into a radio channel that targets people with the things they're most uncomfortable with in society. And that was the first Victim thing. And I only made it Victim because I wanted a radio call sign like KROQ and VKTM in the morning. Yeah, exactly. And then it was, as I think I said last time, then it was something where it was like, oh, this could be a company. And I remember talking to you about the fact that I wanted to do more satire. I wanted to talk about things that were annoying me or things that I found interesting to talk about that wouldn't fit in my little world and wouldn't fit and whatever. So I just started writing about media because with media, you could just tell almost, if the anomalies are all focused on media, being movies or TV shows or music or books, you could tell any sort of story.
That's right.
And what better way to talk about things that are going on in the world than with satire that is, at one hand, surely satirizing the media, but also really not. It is, that's the framework, but it's rarely the point that I'm trying to make. It's sort of a byproduct because of the way that they all come across as cynical and whatever. Right. But yeah, so it was I wanted to talk about social commentary, but I wanted to do it in a non-didactic way. I wanted it to be satirical, and I wanted something media-based because that was really open for interpretation. It was very intentional, but it grew very organically, idea by idea. I think we had enough articles for the tag within like 6 to 8 weeks of my first posting.
It was you and
which
me
is
and Disadron
great.
and Plague.
And Plague.
Yeah, you and Disadron and then Plague and I. And
then somebody else too. Who am I missing? Bavarian?
Oh yeah, the game show of death was probably not the game show of death, but the what the hell was it?
Gehenna Arcade.
Gehenna Arcade. I don't know why I remember the bad early article. It's not a bad article, but it's not much to it because it's an old one. But Gehenna Arcade, yeah, is a good article.
I don't think that was in the first 5 though. But anyway, but yeah, we had like 10 articles, a bunch written by me. But now. And 5 authors. But now there's something like 40-something articles and like 15 authors that have written different victim stuff. So it happened very organically, but very intentionally because I've consistently tried to keep, it's why I made on the hub, there's the golden rules. Which, obviously people can write whatever they want, but then they know I'm going to hate it. But yeah, it had very little to do with me being interested in talking about media, and that happened just organically because I wanted to use a media-focused thing.
Right.
And then it just became its own beast. Like the whole I don't talk about the lore, that came about entirely organically. I have no idea where that came from. The fact that we don't talk about the origins, I don't know where that came from. The fact that we don't talk about their intentionality or the behind the scenes stuff, I don't know where that came from either. I just started doing it. It just started happening. And I was like, listen, if you want to, it's what I've said a few times now. If you want to know what Victim is about, the only thing I'm willing to say is what's written on the page.
Right.
Other than the general stuff I just talked about. All right. Here for both of you. This question is for both of us.
Yay.
What is the typical procedure if the two of you decide to collaborate on an article? Will there be a clear division of labor between paragraphs, or you just write this and then I'll edit it?
I was like Seinfeld. What is the typical procedure if the two of you...
What is the deal with the procedure?
What is the deal with the labor between paragraphs? That's a terrible Seinfeld. The answer
he's a terrible Seinfeld, so it's okay.
That's true. He's crap. He's a bad guy. What I have
he just was taking pictures. Really, hey, look at me! I'm eating halal in Haifa because I love Israel.
Oh, Jerry.
Fuck you,
Jerry. Okay. Well, that's a good. Next question. Now, the answer to this question is that I've written down is that we've never had to figure that out because Is there a page the two of us have fairly equally written? Because I don't think there is. Generally what happens when Grigori and I collaborate is either it's a big enough thing that we both have completely separate things, or one of us writes it primarily and then the other one interjects. I think that's like the 2 modes we've done, isn't it?
Yeah, that is the only thing where we actually split things up into pieces was the site dossier for
with
Site 106.
The procurement liquidation department.
So we each wrote a section of it.
That's true.
That's the only time that happened, I think.
So we've never had to figure this out with the division of labor between paragraphs, because even that was just like, I'm writing this section of this dossier.
Yeah.
The tales that we have for His Will Be Done are written primarily by one of us, and then the other one comes through and goes like, here's what I think should also be in here, and change the wording and blah, 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 blah. Which is why they're both co-authored by us, because we brainstormed them ahead of time.
Yeah, we are planning the story entirely together.
Yes,
so
it's
it is. They are collaborations, but we would then be like, okay, I think I want to tell this side of the story, or I want to do this thing, and then okay, cool, then you go do that, and then we'll decide where in the order that goes.
Yeah, which worked really well.
I just read through the whole series and all of our notes on it so that we can get started writing it in the new year.
That's exciting. Yeah, we're going to get going on that again because it's been a long
2 years later. Well, 18 months or
I
something.
do need to know where the story goes because it's going to end up, it's canon, damn it.
Yeah.
exciting. So I guess that's that one answer pretty much, right?
Yeah. Let's see. Typically the way that we do it is that we have an overarching sort of story, and then we kind of do one thing, and then the other person comes in to help shape it, and then add lines, and then etc.
Because Grigori's better. He knows what Lucretia Popescu's going to say and stuff, and that I don't. So
right.
I'll be like, I think she should say this, and I'm like, yeah, cool.
Or just like tweak it a little. I've never almost never replaced whole sentences that you've written, but it's almost always like, well, what if we made it sound just like this a little bit? 6500, is this massive collaboration, but. Like His Will Be Done, we conceptualized these things together. We talked about what the larger world was. We talked about how they might connect. We talked about where the reveals and the ultimate climax would be. But then we all went into our quarters to write.
Yeah, to my knowledge, on 6500, the only pages that are co-authored in that entire thing, Locke wrote the initial version of the poem that opens the first iteration, and I rewrote it, so that's co-authored with us. I think Placeholder helped Locke with something on the SCP document for 6500, but I'm not sure. I think one of the little possible origin stories, I think he might have helped with that. And Placeholder wrote the first couple paragraphs, I think, of the conclusion, and then I finished the conclusion. So other than that, every other page is one author.
But like all the other things, we came in and we offered, advice. Or,
except for Dark Stuff, which wasn't done until the very last minute. We didn't have time.
Luckily, it's Dark Stuff, and Dark Stuff knows prose, so we
didn't really need.
Other than we were worried, but whatever.
We were worried, but it all worked out well because it was brilliant.
Yeah, so we know each other's styles and we respect it. So we're going to let the other person do what they're good at. That's why we wanted to do something together. It's not so that we could write every sentence together. That doesn't make any sense. I don't even know how that would work. I know that people do that, and that's impressive, but I don't know how that works.
When I write with Placeholder, we change off on sections as well. It's the same thing. We don't both write the same thing. Like with the 7243, it was, I'll write these logs, you write the description, and I'll write this note, and you write the next blurb.
Well, speaking of you knowing my style, I believe you said that there was an imposter challenge you were thinking about.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, when I just said I did 21,000 words, did I say 21 or 31? I can't remember how many.
I don't know. 31.
31,000 words of writing for Christmas. That doesn't count the, about 4,000 or so that I was doing for you, because I was actually writing something for your birthday that I think I planned to write for your birthday last year as well. And I just got more pinch hitting things to do and had to do them because otherwise somebody doesn't get a fucking Christmas present because the way this goddamn thing works. And then I was like, okay,
this is the most perfectly like emblematic way of why my birthday sucks.
Because it's right before Christmas.
That's right.
It sucks. I mean,
this is when people are like, "Don't you care about your birthday?" No, not really, because my entire life has trained me that no one else will either. Not that you don't, but it's just that it's the end of the fucking year. It's right before. It's literally 3 days before Christmas. It's like my 30th birthday. I invited 115 people or something to this crazy party, and 70 of them showed up. Great party, amazing, one of the best days of my life. But it was still don't worry about it. I'll turn 30 again next year. Oh wait.
So this imposter,
a little bit of bitterness coming through.
Little bit, just a tiny little bit. You got to leave that silence in there too. That was. Yeah, so this is a thing I had planned to write for you ages and ages ago, and just keep forgetting to do it. But this time I have now written so much of it on yellow paper with a pencil that's so thin I can barely see it, that I'll actually probably finish it at some point now and spring it on you when you least suspect it.
Ooh.
Because if anybody can write a Grigori Karpin imposter challenge, it should be I, Grigori Karpin.
That's right. I don't think I would ever do an imposter challenge of anyone.
No, I've done a few. I've done that one, I've done the Davy Fool one, and the Plague PJP one, and yeah.
Not that I'm saying it's not a cool thing to do. It is. already have so many modes of writing. I don't want to then insert another person's entire style of writing.
I've barely got enough time to be me. I don't have time to be you, too.
Yeah, man, I work a lot. All right, there's another question here.
Yeah. You did the last one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a particular reason why neither of you have ever created a GOI formats article? It's because Grigori is Jewish. A GOI formats article. Or is it just simply not appealing to you guys? Yeah, Grigori?
Yeah, they suck. No, they don't suck. Listen, there's a lot of great GOI formats that are out there that have been written. That is in spite of the fact that the formats suck. In general, it's like they're SCPs, but they're not. And if I'm gonna write an SCP, I'm just gonna write a fucking SCP.
Yeah.
If I want to write a tale, I'm just gonna write a fucking tale. I'm not gonna write something along this other, arbitrarily forced formatting on. I like taking the formatting of GOIs and putting them into SCPs. That's fun. But I'm not interested in doing a GOI format, mostly because I don't always think that they're that interesting to look at or that interesting to read about. I find most of the pacing of them really questionable. There's a lot of really, really excellent examples that I wouldn't say that about. Things that we've read on this podcast and lots of other things. But I don't really want to personally myself figure out how to make that work.
No.
When I've already got SCPs and tales and a book to write and, I podcast to produce. I'm not doing that too. Not interested.
I actually have one because
Do you?
For the SCP 5K series that I write with Gabriel Kiro, who's the main writer and also placeholder, and I. We actually have a UIU file that will be coming out at some point that should be very, very fun. And it's entirely possible that'll be the first GOI format I've ever published, because it's correct. I have 0 at present. I also have an idea for one that is so insane and gigantic and overblown that it's hilarious. And one of these days I will get around to it. It's a sequel to the, of all things, Site 106 site dossier in a way. But I don't want to spoil it because then somebody will go and do it before me. Worse.
Hopefully you're regretting this because I got silence.
Yeah, it's okay. My recording is good, and both of our recordings are probably crap at this point, so we'll just have to combine our 2 recordings, so that's fine.
That's right. We're going to be doing that anyway.
The backup recording is fucked, so definitely don't fuck up the main recording, because both of our backups are missing one or the other of us.
Were you done? Were you done answering that question? I'm sorry.
I was done answering that question.
God, this is just a mess. I will also add in a last thought that, as we've said before, 9 out of 10 of them are fucking visually awful to look at.
Right.
So, not interested. Although, if I was to do any of them UIU, I would probably do one of those.
Yeah.
I will say that it kind of sucks that Parawatch isn't a GOI format, because I did one of those. I mean, technically we did 2 of those because the bathrooms wiki. And those are amazing, and they follow a completely different formatting setup, and I love them. Why aren't those a GOI? They should be.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a bit of a shuffling going on with the master qualities for tags and stuff. We'll see how that goes.
All right. T-Bone Berry Hill, which is a really fun name.
I erased all the names of the people here, so I don't...
What's up?
I erased all the names off of this, so I only have the questions, so this will be fun going forward. We've only got a few left anyway. Carry on.
Yeah, that's true. We're almost done. What is the best way to create a GOI format that best fits a GOI? This one being right after the last one is so good.
I don't know.
Yeah. My answer to what is the best way to create a GOI format is to don't and make an SCP or tale instead.
The theoretical answer is, if the story you're writing seems to be better from not the Foundation's perspective, but still needs to be clinical for some reason, just do that. But how do we make it best fits a GOI? I guess you have to read the GOI and actually know about them. I guess that's the only answer, really.
But I mean, if it tells anybody anything, I've written one of the more recent GOIs and created it from whole scale, and there is no GOI format. because I don't really like them. If somebody wanted to make one, I would be more than happy to look at it. But if that tells you anything, I wasn't interested in making one. So
GOI is dead. Nietzsche.
all right, read this next one. That's for me.
Does it start with the words "have you"?
No, it's how would you defend?
Would you defend? Do I have one?
You don't have that one?
Let me see. Okay. Let me see. Wait. No. Let me go back to the email. I'll go back to the email. This is me stalling audibly, so it's not dead air, so we don't have to edit it. Going back to the email, and I'm singing a song. Who's it from?
Room 48.
Room. Oh, shit, I never even saw this one. Oh my god, there's... How many of these fucking questions?
That's so funny.
Jesus Christ, Grigori.
I did tell you every time I sent you some.
Fuck me. Alright. Room 48.
These are mostly easy.
Warhammer 40k, least favorite faction army. We are... Didn't we?
No.
That was last week.
It's okay. Yeah.
No, wait.
No.
No, I'm not giving this up. It's my turn.
Okay.
So I do remember that we answered that question last time. Why don't I have a room? I don't have a room. Grigori, I don't have a room.
Okay. Well, I definitely sent it to you.
I'm
but
looking.
It doesn't matter.
I'm looking. I don't see it. Oh, I do. I found it.
Okay.
I'm very happy. I feel very special. Okay. Yep. Grigori, how would you defend... I don't know how to say this.
Luft? Maybe Luft?
How would you defend Luft Huron of the Astral Claws in court?
I wouldn't. He was a traitor.
Be a traitor.
Burn the heretic, the witch, and the mutant for He of Terra. No, but seriously, this dude was reborn as a Chaos Lord. There's no real defense. The only legal standard in the Imperium is loyalty to the fucking Emperor, and he fucked that one up. He's a turncoat space marine who also turned his own chapter and then started trying to make his own legion. So by the time they fucking caught up with him, he had 3,500 space marines. You're only supposed to have 1,000. The Codex Astartes is pretty clear. One chapter is 1,000 marines. And then he took himself over several planets and named himself the Tyrant of Badab. Yeah, dude is not defendable.
Not taking your case.
I refuse.
Well, that's pretty solid. I think that's answered.
That's it. Yeah. All right. This is pretty simple. So this is Arth Simro. Have you ever eaten or cooked a wind-dried puffin?
No.
Chimera asks. Next question.
Chimera asks, how did y'all become friends? Was it before y'all wrote SCPs or after y'all?
So yeah, I think we've talked about this before, but I asked you to crit something of mine.
Hamartia.
I went back and looked at Hamartia, which is SCP-5612.
I thought we must have traded drafts, but I can't find anything that I was writing at that time.
I think I asked you if you had something for me to crit, and I think you just said, "Well, no, but here I wrote this thing. I don't know. Take a look. It's really long."
Yeah,
which
it was significant others.
Yeah, and you're like, "But you don't have to read it. It's like 20,000 words," and I popped it open in a tab, fully intending not to read it, and then I started reading it. Yeah, well, I don't know. But then I started to read it, and then I read the first one in like a couple hours, and then I was like, well, I'm going to read the other one. And then like the next day or something, I was like, so that was really good, and I really like what you did with it. And you're like, wait, you read all that? And I'm like, yeah, oh yeah. I really like how you jump back and forth in time. Like, I mean, this is a trope that I really have always liked.
Right, I should have known that would have appealed to Grigori. That whole tale.
Oh yeah, well,
part is back and forth.
Yeah. So I came back a day later and said how much I liked it, and then we started chatting a bunch. And then I remember
IRC.
Really early on, it's IRC, we were trading messages back and forth. And there was one within a week of started talking, we had a conversation that was just constant for like 6 or 7 hours.
Yep.
And we talked about like every single DC superhero, including talking about the JSA for a long time.
Right.
And the JSA is like my favorite thing in the world. And then somehow we ended up on Prey 2017, and we both think it's like one of the best games ever made. And it's a game you can talk about for a long time. And then, so since then we've basically talked, multiple times a week, if not every day, ever since. So yeah, you're like my best friend that I haven't met in person.
Well, back at you, and it's been absolutely pleasure from start to present. And no finish on the horizon until we, die of old age, since we're both so old.
Yeah, I would very much dislike no longer talking, so that won't be happening.
That's absolutely the case.
All right. You. It's my turn, but it's a question for me, but whatever. In episode 35, you, Grigori, talk about how you put your feelings into 2 of your stories. How were you able to convey that the way you did? Any tips you can give for others who wish to convey their own thoughts and emotions during a struggle they went through into a story? So this is a mildly long answer, but I tend to really sink into my feelings, just personally, and like let them percolate for a while. I rarely respond quickly because when I was younger, I had a lot of anger management issues, and I went through training. I went through therapy for it when I was pretty young,
feelings,
and a little bit later on. I mean, it's kind of what therapy is, right? Yeah. And I just learned very early that my immediate reaction to things could be somewhat shitty, which Harry has seen because I vent to him sometimes. Yeah, it's reciprocal. Many times.
Like everything else, it's reciprocal.
Yeah. And oftentimes I find that, if I vent something that I'm feeling and then it feels better, well, that can't really have been that big a deal. So I learned pretty early on to not like leap at negative emotions. I don't ignore them and bury them, but I kind of like sit and think for a bit. Am I still pissed off if I go take a shower? Am I still pissed off if I gotta go for a walk or whatever? And so when I wrote the 2 stories that we were talking about before, which is 5923 and 5079, that was during the first 3 months of pandemic or so, somewhere in there. And I had never experienced, none of us had really experienced anything like that, but I'm a very social person. And I had just spent, 3 years in law school. And right before the pandemic, I'd spent 2 months. Basically, my only friend was studying for the bar, so he wasn't a very good friend. And I was just miserable. And then the pandemic started, and we were so isolated that we couldn't even hang out with people that we were close to if they didn't live with us, because we might give them a deadly disease or whatever. So, I was sitting in my room all the time by myself, barely talking to my roommates, scared to talk to my roommates because they all went to jobs. And losing my fucking mind. And 5923 came about because I wanted to emphasize the haunting nature of feeling alone. The way that loneliness can kind of just like seep into your everyday kind of interaction, the silence, and how poignant it can be, but also just how shitty it is. And then I just started following that premise to its logical extreme. I started thinking about a city who was abandoned but was alive, so it didn't really like the idea it was abandoned. So how would the city get people to try and come? And then that turned into using dreams to communicate in the noosphere and blah 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 blah. I was trying to focus on communicating that haunting feeling. For 5079, which is about a lonely person trying to figure out how to get closer to people. So he uses a psychic mushroom machine thing. The feeling of wanting to contact with anybody, but also being really scared to do so because of the pandemic. So it was, how does isolation make us feel, and how could it be dangerous to want to be around people? So for both of these, what really mattered was keeping the tone consistent. Like with Victim, I play with atonality. I switch from humor to horror at breakneck speed, but you can't do that with a story that you want to talk about your emotional state. You right. want to keep things consistent. You don't want to throw a joke in there. You don't want to make a jump scare. Spooky is fine because Gothic horror is really about melancholy, but you can't suddenly have a murder monster in there. I mean, maybe you could. I don't know. But if you want to emphasize the feeling that you feel alone, or you want to emphasize the feeling that you're frustrated at this, you've got to work on keeping the tone and the atmosphere. So you really get a sense for how you feel in that feeling if it's not something that's going away. And then instead of speaking to that feeling in the story, I aimed for making a setting or a story that could help me be in that headspace and then talk about it. So it's like that sense of space that I was talking about earlier, but for your emotional intelligence, for your emotional whatever, your state of mind, your insight. You want to make sure it's not something that's passing. That's why I talked about the shit with, like, if you take a walk and you feel better, don't write a story about that. Don't write a vent piece unless it's funny, and make sure you're not talking about other people specifically.
Right.
Use allegory to talk about your emotions. Because if you make something too specific to you, it might not be as communicative, it might not appeal to other people. And the whole point of it is to reach other people, to hopefully show other people that are feeling the same way that they're not alone, or to just connect with somebody else who has a similar feeling.
Right.
I think that's the point. So yeah, wait around, let it kind of seep into your creative process, and then just make sure the tone is consistent. If it's an angry story, you want to make sure it's not something that's just momentarily frustrating. And yeah, I mean, really focus in on allegory. So something crazy, an idea that's really, really out there and has nothing to do with your emotional state at the moment, but then using that to embody how you feel, and then taking that to the logical extreme while keeping the tone consistent is how I would advise.
Yeah. Waiting for me. I wasn't asked.
Yeah.
That's a good answer, though. That's the answer I would give anyway. So.
Because you're me.
Yeah. I didn't do any. I didn't do any of the requisite research for the next one.
Awesome. So you read it and I'll answer, and then you come up with some jokey answers. I don't know.
Alex Oak 96 asks for Q&A Part 2. If you were able to cast an SCP film or television project using performers of today or yesteryear, what are some casting choices you would make for some of the standouts in the many canons of the wiki? It's a great question. I just didn't have time before this one to really think about that.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that would have taken a lot of time.
I've seen a lot of people on Meta Foundation doing this all the time, fan casting characters.
Yeah, I didn't want to do this for like the whole wiki, so I just focused on characters I've written.
Good. Good.
Yeah. So for Victim, I would say Samara Weaving from Mary McPherson would be a really good choice. I think Lakeith Stanfield would be a really good Jeremy Kincaid.
Oh.
Do you know who Lakeith Stanfield is?
No, he's got a funny name though.
He does. He's absolutely wonderful. Highly suggest you look up anything that he's in and enjoy it.
Okay.
For Resurrection, I would say I have no fucking idea who I would cast as Lucretia Popescu, because no one I can find or think of is buff enough, except for one actress, and she sucks. So I don't want her.
We're not casting the Star Wars lady.
Nope. I would say Zoe Kravitz for Carlotta Deneb. I would say David Tennant for Dr. Dan.
Oh, wow.
I would say Tessa Thompson for Dr. Light. I would say Peter Serafinowicz for the Spectre.
Nice. Yes.
Right?
The Tick.
I didn't know who to pick for Rainer Miller, so I said Tom Holland because I thought that would be fun. I thought for Dr. Gat, Jeff Bridges would be really good.
That's funny.
And for General Wilford, I thought Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Oh, well. That's good. Give him a role where he isn't playing the comedian again.
Nope, definitely not.
Because that's what they did on The Walking Dead, is they just said, play the comedian, but worse.
I know. And he's got so much range.
I know. It's not fair.
Yeah.
I mean,
obviously it's good that he got a good role, but yeah.
While you were talking...
He was really good as the comedian.
He's really good at the comedian.
I mean, that movie sucks, but he's really good as the comedian.
He's one of the he's one of the several things that they definitely got right.
Ozymandias is the other one. They did a really good job with those.
Sea of things they did wrong.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that Bryan Cranston would be fun as Dr. Dan. I could see him pulling that off.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, I could see Bryan Cranston pulling off Lucretia Popescu. Honestly, like
he is pretty good. Yeah,
pretty much terrific.
I saw him in a play last year.
Did you? What was it?
It's nice. It was
memorable.
It's a sailing Well, I play names are sometimes hard to remember. It's like a naval allegory. It's about a college professor who's like very, very well lauded, who writes a piece sort of talking about how anyone that is sufficiently educated and empathetic can basically speak for the oppressed peoples, which is obviously wrong.
No kidding.
But he's a well-meaning, very progressive person who just isn't fully up on the fact that he is 100% wrong, and he shouldn't be debating. He gets asked to debate this basically neo-Nazi, and he's agreed to do it because he could debate anybody. He could debate, and everybody in the college is like, no, don't even give him the time of day. That's ridiculous. You're legitimizing his perspective. He's like, no, I'm going to take him apart, and he can't accept the fact that he's wrong, and things go very badly. And he did a very good job, very relatable, because being someone who is white and cis hetero and trying to be an ally, it can go wrong if you think you know better.
Yep.
Very easily. So cool. Great actor.
Great answer to this question about a sequel.
Let's see.
Yeah, well, I might give a better answer to that sometime on the later date, but let's continue to hear Grigori's answer.
Hekakan Kariz, I think Franca Poltenta, who was the lead in Run Lola Run and 1,000 other things, would be a great director, Varga.
Cool.
Melissa Barrera, who's the lead from Scream 5 and 6, would be an amazing Agent Douglas. Pedro Pascal would be an amazing Marquez.
Ooh.
Michelle Pfeiffer would be the perfect choice for the matriarch. Path of the Cleric, Hiroyuki Sanada would be my Kato. If you look up this person, you'll recognize him. He's in every samurai movie ever. And Bae Donna for Fumiko. She's Korean, not Japanese, but I fucking love Bae Donna so much. She's been in everything. Anyway, the Sarkic Vanguard stories for Clef, I think Sam Rockwell. For Varus, I think Mads Mikkelsen. For Lovitar, I would say Indira Varma, and then for Oruk, I would say Keith David, but just as a voice.
God, I would love to see Sam Rockwell as Dr. Clef. That's a good choice.
Right? He'd be amazing.
Sam Rockwell's really good at playing just like fucking dirtbag, douchebag, dipshit.
He is, and he always kind of brings heart to him, though, too.
Yeah.
God, Rockwell's good.
I love Sam Rockwell. He's so good.
Yeah, he's really good. Anyway, did you want to answer any casting questions, or do you want to skip?
No, I think I might answer that one better at a later date, maybe. We'll see.
Okay. We'll slip it into another episode.
Yeah, do an On Guard 4-3 thing. It might come up. Yeah, we'll save that one for now. So we've got.
I'll read this next one.
Okay, good.
What's an SCP tale or GOI format you haven't found an excuse to talk about on the podcast yet, but you think we should all know about?
I'm starting to feel like
Also, you all make and navigating the wiki immeasurably more enjoyable since I started listening. Oh, thanks, Alex.
That's very sweet. That's not included in my list of questions, though. I didn't get that last bit there.
Maybe I didn't send it, but I think I did. Anyway,
you bastard. Yeah, no, I see the question though. This is starting to feel like I've targeted Alex. So Alex O96 for not answering. But I'm looking at my sheet and I see that I never actually solved that question. Something we haven't talked about that we should talk about.
I mean, there's a lot of things.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. And you know what the problem with that is? It's the same problem when someone says, okay, can you say something? and you go,
Yeah.
no, hi? Because you've spoken the language your whole life. I remember reading somebody saying this. You speak the language your whole life, and someone says say something, you go, so yeah, I've read all these thousands of things, and I can't think of anything. I'm just gonna plug my friends, because we've plugged you already. I would say 7579 O is for Orcuslos, which is placeholders rewrite of SCP-79, which is Labor of
so
Love
good.
from the anthology, and it is so fucking good. I'm just gonna say that one. I don't think we had any reason to talk about that one before, so that's one that I really like.
God, Anthology 2022. I haven't read enough of the new anthology. I'm not trying to cast shade or anything, but 2022. Jesus Christ, there's so many fucking incredible ones. I'm not just tooting our horns because I like the articles you and I did. I mean, all the other ones are so incredible.
It was a really good collection of articles.
Yeah. I'll say Sarcasm because we have been waiting to get Metaphysician on. Waiting until he's comfortable coming on. He does want to come on, but some things are in the way. So that would be my number one goal for the podcast for next year, is to make that work out. And then we're gonna make the jump to cannons. We might go back and do some of the GUIs we've missed later on, but we might not. It's time for cannons. It's been enough. We're doing enough.
Yep.
All right. Do you have this next one from Akaleo?
Yeah, so this next one I'm going to answer first because this next one is from... I'm going to break format here. This one's from Akaleo, and they say, what would you consider your favorite and least favorite beverage? And my answer to least favorite...
is the LaCroix you just opened.
is tea. I don't like tea. And that's the end of my answering.
You don't like tea? All teas?
I don't like tea. It tastes like dirt.
That's not true.
I don't like coffee either.
Well, that's insane. But all right.
Other than the Ka-Chunk, I'd also really like Caesars, like Clamato and hot sauce, like Caesars. That's what I like to drink. If I'm drinking,
you drink Clamato and hot sauce,
like as Caesars. Yeah, it's like a Bloody Mary, a Bloody Caesar. Never had?
No,
it's like alcohol, but it's like tomato and hot sauce, so you don't notice that the alcohol's in there fucking it up, and then you get drunk. It's good. But
I've had a Bloody Mary.
It's the same
thing. Is that not what that is?
Okay. It's essentially the same thing, I think. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh.
In Canada, they're called Caesars. I don't know why.
Oh, okay.
Coke Zero. I drink so much Coke Zero, it's basically all of my blood now.
For me, coffee is 100% my favorite beverage. In fact, I have done a lot of work over the last 6 months to make sure I don't drink as much coffee as I used to. So now I have 1 or 2 cups at most. Which is good. I have one right after I wake up, and then maybe I have one before noon, and then I stop. Except for today, when I have one later on, but I put booze in it.
I drink way too much Coke. In fact, I always drink 2 during the podcast, and I open the cans, obviously. But this time...
Clearly.
This time, I realized how late that question was going to be. So this is actually my 3rd can, because I opened the second one off camera so that I could have something to drink before we got to this question, because I knew we needed the sound effect. And that's my commitment to the quality of this podcast.
A close second for my favorite would be coconut water. I love coconut water. I don't like most of the brands, though. I really only like Zyko. But I also really enjoy buying baby coconuts and cracking them open and drinking the water because I really enjoy them.
God,
I have
could
like
really
a special
cut that one up
tool.
into a really funny sentence.
You could. Beverage that I hate, milk. Not only will it make me ill, but even before it would make me ill, I hated milk. I didn't ever drink glasses of milk when I was a kid. I would never drink the milk out of the cereal bowl. Like, I'd have a little bit of it because it tastes like cereal, but then that was it. I don't understand when people are like, delicious glass of milk. You're an alien.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
I'm not a fan of just drinking that. I don't like it on
not even chocolate milk. I don't want it.
Yeah, I used to when I was a kid, but you need your calcium, so make sure you all get your calcium. But
when you're a kid, and then stop because we didn't actually adapt to continue drinking. It's why so many people are dairy, like lactose intolerant, because genetically we're not actually designed to digest it that much past adolescence.
That's interesting.
But we developed dairy as a good protein
Reason to keep cows around.
because, well, goats was the earliest ones, but yeah, because it was a way to like provide more protein while also keeping your source of the protein alive instead of killing all the animals.
Yeah,
it fits a good. It makes sense. It's important, but like mostly people did not just drink milk. That's why yogurt and cheese is a thing.
Cheese.
I like yogurt a lot. I wish I could eat any of that stuff anymore, but I can't.
This is sad. Making me hungry and sad.
All right.
Your coconut, whatever the fuck, reminded me that I really like pina coladas.
Oh, yeah. That's
and getting caught in the rain. And cheating on my wife.
Jeez. All right.
Yeah.
I was going to say, do you drink pina coladas? Because that is like a 90-year-old man's drink.
I just remember because I had those when we went to the Dominican Republic when I was a kid. Not a kid, like when I was a teenager. I went to high school, my parents and I, we went to the Dominican.
Your parents were buying you like cocktails?
Well, I was old enough to have it.
Nice.
I don't remember what the drinking age was, but I was old enough to have the pina colada. And
Sure.
Oh no, that's a false memory that I'm making. I'm making up a memory to make it make sense. I had non-alcoholic pina coladas. That's what it was.
Oh,
they
probably taste
which tastes better because it doesn't have alcohol in it, which inherently tastes bad.
No, it doesn't.
Anyway.
Okay, we're almost done here. Nolan from SCP Weekly asked who would be a dream guest to have on the show.
Corey already answered this.
Yeah, metaphysician.
Metaphysician would be great. I don't know. Tufto would be cool.
Oh, Tufto would be real good. Yeah. And Tufto listens, so hello, Tufto.
Hello, Tufto. Love Tufto.
Tufto responded to my criticism of his 001, and I just want to reiterate, I fucking love that article. Metaphysician, obviously, I think it'd be really cool to get like the Exploring series or Volgan on. But, otherwise just like authors. Just want to talk to people that create stuff.
I think that's probably doable. We have an unpublished thing that Place and I did with Exploring series, so I'm sure they'd be down for it. Yeah,
probably. Okay.
My dream one for OG43 that I mentioned before was to get Place and IP, but obviously the possibility of that ever happening is...
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll definitely have Place back on to talk about admonition.
Yes.
Hopefully soon.
And Liren will just throw rocks at the recording studio.
Yeah. Wouldn't trust her to do anything productive.
Oh, that's cruel. That's just totally unreasonable and untrue. No precedent to say anything like that.
All right, read this next second to last one from T-Bone Barry Hill.
Hi, Lucy, if you're listening. You're not listening.
Yeah, if you're listening, please come on, but I know you won't, so...
Carry on.
Because you said you won't.
Ralston, too, won't come on either. Anyway, what were you saying?
Yeah, I know. So, read T-Bone Barry Hill's next question.
Hell of a name. Hell of a name. How would you suggest starting a new year off fresh when considering writing and being motivated?
Personally, I don't pay attention that much to the whole New Year thing. I don't like resolutions. I don't like arbitrary lines in the sand in my life. But if you wanted to do that, the advice we said earlier, which is develop the habit, the exercise of writing. Make time, set aside that time, and actually use that time to write. If you don't feel like it, do it anyway. Do it several times a week and just start writing. Stop waiting for the feeling to be right. Stop waiting for some motivation, because the only motivation that ever works is you. You have to be your motivation.
That's right. I find that if you do something every day, I don't know how this works for people whose brains aren't broken, but if you do something every day, you will continue to do it every day, and you'll feel bad if you don't. So that's a good way to get onto the habit of it. So if you want to make the habit of writing something every day without exception, then you'll eventually train your brain to do it. And it'll be easier if your brain is young and you can still train it to do things.
Yeah, I mean, start small. When you sit down in front of a computer, see if you can't get, 300 to 400 words written.
Right.
You don't have to do 3,500 words a night, but, you want to work your way up. So.
Start small.
Okay.
Do what you can.
And then for our last question, Bad Egg asks, who are your favorite characters from the wiki that you wouldn't want to write an article about?
Hog Slice. Present company accepted. Most people who write Hog Slice don't seem to get it right, and it's irritating to read. So I find that difficult and kind of scary.
I love using Hog Slice.
I know, you used them very well in the bathrooms wiki thing especially, but
I used them somewhere else too, and I can't remember where. Oh, in the most recent victim article.
It was in the Twitter victim article,
yeah.
the Viber article, of course it was. No, you had fun with that, but I've seen a lot of people who it comes across as like a sort of a pale version of the one in the original article, because it's a really specific tone to hit, and I'd be afraid to screw that up. Well, I say that, but I have actually written, he's in the gigantic conclusion to the Time After Time password, but that doesn't matter. I probably fucked him up.
He's good for using as a punchline. I wouldn't want to redo an entire story with him.
No.
If anything you're doing involves commenting on the internet, you have to put him in there.
You gotta have a Hog Slice entry.
I originally, what article is that? This is the problem with having too many articles. You don't remember all your numbers. You maybe do, but I don't. 7830.
He's having a conversation with me, and I'm not in it.
So SCP 7830, which is I don't remember the title I wrote, but the brand formerly known as Victim. I originally did not have a hog slice. I always want to say bone slice because of the Spider-Man movie.
And the Hog Slice versus
Bone Saw. Hog Slice was not originally in that article, and then and then people were like, "Well, you should really go nuts in these parts, go really lean into it." And it's like, okay, well, what belongs here? Hog Slice belongs here.
It does.
Who are some characters from the wiki that I wouldn't want to write? I love Anderson and I love Wondertainment, and I don't want to write about either of them. I don't know how to write about them at all, so I won't be.
I had one fun thing that I wrote about Cornelius in Cornelius Wondertainment, and again, Time After Time password, but that was just because I talked to Dark Stuff and Nico and got an idea. I don't know how much I'd have to contribute to Wondertainment in general, although I have written Professor Fantastic, the bad knockoff.
Oh, you know what another one is? I think Phelan Wilson is amazing, but I feel like Dark Stuff and, more importantly, Nico have kind of got that character pretty well handled, and I don't necessarily know how much more I have to add to it.
Yeah, no, I think I might have used Phelan and a few other things in cameos as well, but no, I'd feel a little out of my element on that one. Well, in that case, most of Uranium Empire's characters are so complex and detailed with their traumas and experiences that I would feel perhaps more than a little out of my depth trying to express the full level of the shit they've got going on. Having only my again, cis white heterosexual male experiences of life. But mostly this ends up just being we love what other people have written sometimes enough that we respect it enough to not want to screw it up.
Yeah, exactly. One I would love to screw up. No, I don't want to screw it up. But one I've not figured out a way to do it, and I don't know if I really have it in me, is a Jude article for
Jude Crayop.
Yeah, for Gamers Against Weed. I love Jude so much. I love that character so much. But I don't know that I really have it in me to write him. Maybe I do, but I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah,
Ruiz Deschamps as well.
Ruiz Deschamps, yeah. I don't think I have any good ideas for the Homestuck satellite either, but I love it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Bones and brain fart.
Just copy it and write your own. Just copy it and write your own satellite like I did. I'm just kidding. That was not intentional. All right, we have finally reached the end of this list of questions.
Christ. Fucking
Thank
hell.
you.
3 hours and 12 minutes so far.
Thank you so much to everybody who sent them in. Thank you very much. This did turn out to be basically as long as the last time. So happy holidays. Thank you for sending it in. We have Twitter for the show, which is SIMCREAT. My Twitter is @GrigoriCarpin.
And I'm assuming Grigori stopped talking, and I'm at Harry Blank SCP.
That's right. Good job. And the email here is simplycreativepeople@gmail.com. So please feel free to send us an email about anything. Obviously, we will be talking about Art Exchange next time. So maybe if you want to talk about that, send us an email ahead of time. If not, send us an email about whatever the fuck. It doesn't matter. We'll probably read it unless you're a jerk.
You know what? I've got some questions that I need answered now.
Shoot.